Welcome to Plat Chat, episode 94, presented by T-Mobile. I'm working on a jingle for the beginning. This
is the second time we started the show because I cursed too much at the beginning of the last one within the first 4 seconds. So
yeah, Matt was very angry that Kurt was doing the countdown instead of him.
Kurt stole my job. It's the only thing I contribute to the show is the countdown.
You get it wrong every time, though. We always start the show with you counting upwards, backwards, going into the negative numbers, getting down to zero, whatever. You beef it.
Johnny gets his soul predictions wrong every time, but nobody gives him shit for it.
He's muted.
Johnny's mic isn't working now.
He's muted.
He's got push to talk.
You can tell
I
had
push to talk.
Oh my god. Are we turning into a musical? What's going on here? What's happening?
I don't know. Hey,
I like it.
I heard it turn into a musical weekend.
Yeah, this is the stage in the season where everyone loses their minds. It's always stage 3. It's like you can sustain up until stage 2, and then it gets to stage 3, and people lose their fucking minds.
Well, at this point, we know what these teams are, right? You know, nobody's changing course like crazy. You know, the Titans,
kind of, actually.
Maybe actually this year, yeah. It's true.
Most of the teams,
who knows?
Most of the teams are solidifying, I guess, but it's also been a much shorter season, so I think everyone's sanity is a little better than it was back in like 2018.
Some are solidifying the wrong way.
Yeah, Matt, by the way, why are you like a little floating head in the bottom of your camera and so much space up to the left? You're like, it's like if I was hosting from down here.
Have you ever seen the show Mr. Robot, Josh, or anybody?
Mr. Robot.
Yeah,
no.
I've seen Mr. Robot. I saw the first season, and I think I just stopped watching.
Yeah, it looks like you're, yeah, that's how they frame a lot of the shots. So very
inspirational.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my Mr. Robot on.
It's an artistic frame, is it? I see.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
It makes me look taller if I sit in the corner.
Does it? I'm not sure about that one.
No, I think it actually makes me look shorter. This is how the episodes end up being fucking 4 hours, by the way. We just end up wasting time.
Okay, well, I want to ask you.
You can have an intro.
I want to ask you a question.
Intro.
What did you guys do for July 4th? It's July 5th today. What did you do?
Yeah.
At a rooftop party.
Okay. You eat some hot dogs, Matt?
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, we got tired of Matt. He's not invited anymore.
Damn, thanks for the invite, bro. Nah, I played I casted, and then I played some WoW. Then after that, I watched like a half of episode of Love Island, passed out.
Bro, what is your life? That is the least American thing I've... Was it Love Island UK as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't even American. That is unbelievable. At least, Avast, you must have done something truly American.
No. Not really. I mean, I did a co-stream, and then the thing is, there's a lot of things happening for me currently, so I have a very busy life, and July 4th doesn't stop.
Making moves, you know?
It doesn't stop. So.
Mogul moves, I see.
He's a move maker.
Okay, all right.
What did you do, Josh?
What did I do? I didn't want to do anything. I casted, and then Bren dragged me out, and so I ended up just getting blackout drunk in the middle of Austin. So that's, I guess, a very American thing, I suppose.
You did something, I guess. Yeah,
it's a very Bren thing.
It is a very Bren thing to do. It is a very Bren thing
every time
to do.
I remember when I was down there, the entire time I'm like, I'm not feeling like going out tonight. Bren's like, pound this zinc. We're going out tonight. And I'd pound a thing of zinc, like pour it in the glass, and we'd go out. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm so tired. Sleep on an air mattress, and Brendan was like, "No, we gotta go. We gotta drink." And I was like, "Okay."
I felt responsible
more
for
Bren
him
than
as well.
celebrating others, you know.
Yeah, I felt responsible for Bren last night because his phone died, and so he wasn't able to get anywhere. So I was his ride there and his ride back and all sorts of stuff like that. And you know the only reason that I was able to do that? You know the only reason? Is thanks to T-Mobile's 5G.
Yo.
That's why I was able to look after Bren and make sure that he was responsible. We were all responsible. We got home safely. I haven't seen him this morning, and I don't really remember coming home. But I think he's here. I think he's home at least. T-Mobile, though, wow, those people. I have not got the read up, so give me a second. I really, good guys, like real good
Great
people.
guys,
love T-Mobile, fantastic company. I really appreciate
here we go.
Their phone service.
You'd think I'd be able to remember it at this point, but I really can't. T-Mobile wants to be the best in the world at connecting people to their world. You guys probably remember it better than I do.
Yeah.
With so much of our lives these days happening through a wireless connection, nothing but the best will do. We rely on wireless to do almost everything in life, from big deals like Avast is making to everyday connections like Matt and Jonathan were avoiding.
Yeah.
If you can't rely on your network, it can have big consequences. That's why you can't just trust this stuff to anyone. T-Mobile is the largest and fastest 5G network in America. In America. With coverage and speed like this, why wouldn't you go with the best around? There you go.
Good point.
I mean,
That's
I
my
use
job done.
T-Mobile firsthand. I love T-Mobile.
Yeah.
Great. I love their phone service. It's fantastic. Firsthand, vouch.
Okay.
Free Wi-Fi on a lot of flights.
We're going to begin.
That's true.
We're going to begin with big news of the week, which I'm not sure we have too much to really add to the discussion in any way, but it was a report that came out from Esports with Wolf and Liz about the DOJ inquiry into the OWL anti-competitiveness stuff as well. If we want to bring up the article, it's essentially the Overwatch League gave a comment in this as well, or somebody from the Overwatch League, I'm not sure. But basically, there's a Department of Justice inquiry into the apparent salary cap that has never really been talked about. So I don't know how it exists or whatever. Don't know any of the details about it. Apparently, it's been headed by this person called Kiernan, and she said that Kiernan said the investigation is not criminal. And the center of the inquiry is that essentially you are not allowed a salary cap if there's no players union. So if there's a salary cap in place, but it's not like agreed upon deal between an entity and a union, that's how stuff like the NBA, the NFL is able to introduce a salary cap. If you don't have a players union, you can't have a salary cap, is as far as I understand it. And apparently there has been some kind of salary cap. The only public knowledge about it was some like deleted tweets from Susie Kim when she was GM of London. That's like the only time it's ever been mentioned by anybody in the Overwatch League, as far as I can tell. But here's some details about it. Allegedly, the soft salary cap is at 1.6 million. So if you go above that, you have to pay like twice as much money if you go above it. I have no idea how many teams would even go above that naturally if it didn't exist. I really like all of the details about finances in terms of team salaries and whatever are all just so hidden that it's impossible
even if
to
it didn't exist,
idea.
I would find it hard for a team to, unless they were just like paying everybody, you know, like top players, like hard to go above, at least in my opinion. But we just don't know a lot about what's happening.
Yeah, it's also none of us are lawyers, so we don't even. I mean, when I read stuff like this, I don't know what the consequences would even... I don't even know what the range of consequences would be if they did find that there was some problem with how the Overwatch League was operating. They said it's not criminal, but is there some kind of fine? Would they just tell them that they have to remove the salary cap? I literally don't have any idea about the range of consequences that could happen.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us do.
Yeah, I have no idea. But... So, you know, some people will ask like, well, you know, the NFL, the NBA, they have that stuff as well. But apparently there's an exemption. I'm reading from Jacob Wolf's tweet here. There's an exemption you can get if you have a union employer agreement, which is the precedent for the NFL, NBA.
Yeah.
But they have player unions, right?
Yes.
So if the Overwatch League wanted to still have this, or like, I don't, you know, maybe they are allowed to have it. I don't know. If the DOJ deems they cannot have it, they could perhaps, I guess, apply for an exemption if they had actual player unions.
Yeah, but then you get to a situation like Riot where they created a players' union for the players. Because really, those kind of things should be created by players. But with so much player turnover, young careers, young people involved, and a lack of understanding or finances to be able to go and get that understanding from lawyers, player unions very, very rarely spring up in esports. And even the ones that do exist, like the CSPPA, which is not even a union, it's an agency that tries to act like a union over for Counter-Strike, has been lambasted recently over the last year for just being not useful in the situations it should be, and also counterproductive in the stuff that it fights over, and actively harmful for the scene is part of the criticism against it. So it's I see a lot of the there should just be a players union. Of course there should be, but who creates it and how does it function are actually really important questions, because it could be more of a pain than it's worth.
Yeah, and especially I think as well with the player age of the Overwatch League, like we don't have those experienced players that or older players that the NFL and like the MLB and all these leagues have, because like when people retire, they're in their 30s, sometimes the late 30s, and they probably feel like a sense of responsibility, making sure the younger talent is treated fairly,
Well-
etc. Like Neptuno was our oldest players, and he was like what 28 or something. I think the closest we got to a player union was actually Morte. I think was trying to steer something up in like 2017, 18.
2018.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't even think he got
typically,
that far with it. Like, there's also like a lack of sense of urgency from like agents and older players to like take care of the younger ones. Like the younger player that comes in from contenders or whatever, they're just like, I don't understand a player union. But in the bigger leagues, it's like, hey, you're in the NBA now. We run a player union. This is what it's like. This is the price for you to be in, or like whatever. And like this is really important. We don't have that sense of urgency or importance, I think, for a player
Well,
union.
it's also just way
leagues.
more complicated than that, right? Because like the NBA, for example, like I think the head of the players union is Chris Paul, like an active player. Then there have been players in the past who have opted not to be part of the player union. Two players that I think you can kind of name off. Well, I can name off the top of my head. You guys probably don't know, but Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley not part of the players union because of I believe at the time it was actually over some video game stuff. Because the players union had the option to do the likenesses for them in games, and they wanted like 4 for their likenesses. That's why Michael Jordan was always like player 99, and Charles Barkley was never in any video game outside of, I think Charles Barkley had his own basketball game that just had fake players for all the other ones outside of himself. Okay. Yeah, it's just a really large scenario, right? And I think one thing like esports also has that some of the traditional sports don't have is like players from all over the world, right? Like there's different things that players would want, and then you're trying to organize
set it up. Like, how would you set up a players union that's legal in the US but also legal in like China and Korea and those places?
Right, and I'm sure they all have different. I'm sure they all have different rules, right? That you would kind of need to adhere to all over the world. So, I'm sure this is a much harder issue than just start one.
Yes, yeah, but also
we've already gone round and round on this so long, though. I feel like we've gone round and round this topic for like 4 years now. And we just always arrive to the same conclusions. And so, honestly, at this point, I hate talking about player union crap because
there's the game. This is what I was talking about.
There's the game.
The players are all made up outside of
Sir Charles Sarge.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sir Charles and Sarge, and then Stonewall and South.
Yeah. But they were never in. That's also like a reason. If you go to like the NBA website, you can't you can buy. I think you can buy Jordan now. Because he's like Jordan brand and they have whatnot, but like you can't buy a Charles Barkley jersey on the NBA site. Like for former players for the Phoenix Suns, they have to use a lot of other players. You can't buy one.
That's crazy.
That's interesting. If this, to just return to the salary cap for a moment, if this did disappear, if all the details around the Jacob and Liz's report are correct, and this 1.6 million salary cap suddenly disappeared, Avast, do you expect that would make a big difference to organizations or players?
For the most organizations, I think Matt already talked about how like most teams are not even coming close to that amount. And we have some teams that like, if it were possible to run off volunteers, they would. So like it's irrelevant for some franchises already. It would really only be for some of the big spenders, like, your Dallases, your Shanghais, like Hangzhou, maybe like Justice potentially, but like even still, probably none of those teams are even close to the salary cap this year, if there is a salary cap. And so I don't think it's really going to make a huge difference, but I wouldn't be surprised if like theoretically in the future where we have a big restructuring and a bunch of contracts shuffle around, and now there's no longer this supposed soft salary cap, someone just says, fuck it, I'm getting everybody and you can't stop me. Like one of the teams that have a lot of money, and like they wouldn't be able to if there is anything because there is no penalty to doing so. So I don't know. There's a lot. It's interesting because for something like this, a lot of these big fines from government agencies also help fund them, or they go back into the U.S. Treasury.
Right.
So theoretically, even if this isn't like a criminal matter, like the DOJ could be looking to like put like a quote unquote small fine anyways, because like they make money from it. Like that's how they sort of get some of their money. So like it could, who knows what it could be. But there's a lot of different options, and we don't really know how it's going to work out.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose worst case scenario, it's an enormous fine. And the Overwatch League is like, oh, fuck. But, I mean, we're not lawyers. We have literally no idea what kind of money would even be involved.
I would say
if
this exists, though,
so,
if this exists, it's a gigantic legal fuck up, though, from the league. I will say. Like, that's, to me, that must, like, from my opinion, if you know this rule exists and you've had legal consultation, and then it's like, oh, we don't have a players union, and they've still installed this soft salary cap, which, once again, we don't actually know what the details of that are, if that's true. But if it does currently exist, and we've made a competitive league based around it, and we know about the current rules around professional sports and salary caps, and they get fined and they have to remove it, that is an unbelievable legal fuck up by the league, because it's like very clearly stated that like this sort of stuff exists, and it already is existing around sports.
Yeah, and a weird thing to try and risk for something that doesn't seem to have that many real world consequences for organizations. Also strange that like the tweets about it in the past got deleted. Like, I don't know, you know? Like it hasn't been public at all. Anyway, yeah, I'm very interested. I would be interested to learn who kind of reported this to the DOJ, because it's not like they just came sniffing. Somebody has probably reported it, right? Like some either like player agent or organization that got shafted by it or something has probably reported this scenario. It's not like the DOJ is really into Overwatch League. So
you never know. It was on Big Bang Theory, wasn't it? Wasn't that the show? I'm trying to remember. Like,
something like that, right? They were Gladiators fans, I think.
I don't think it would be an agent though, because I feel like some agents are incentivized to like, because if you have a big name player, when there's no players union, big name players have more clout and like weight to throw around in negotiations than smaller players. So I would imagine, like, I don't know. I mean, like, I guess it runs both ways, though, because if you represent smaller players, you'd also want a players union to get more benefit out of it. So it's tough to really see, like, who would be incentivized for that. Yeah.
Interesting anyway, but I think the most likely outcome is that we'd never hear about any conclusion of this, honestly. Like, I think that's genuinely the most likely outcome, is just it gets settled or dealt with and there's no report about it ever again. So would be interesting if Jacob and Liz dig into it further as the story continues. But now, into the Overwatch League. The game of the week, in my opinion, was the Atlanta-Dallas game. I don't know if you guys agree, but I thought that was a fucking club banger. That one popped off. All 5 maps, both teams playing kind of stuff that they're comfortable on and they've won on in the past. Atlanta back to their rush compositions that was all the power of their scrim box in the early beginning of the year. And Dallas playing the same kind of stuff that got them into the May Melee when they were just 3-0-ing everybody, teleporting around on Sim, running Fearless's Ryan into people.
You may have to go back and delete the episode where we argued about Florida or Atlanta for like 30 minutes.
Yeah. To be fair, there was a lot of things.
Who was on what side of that argument at the time? I think I was with Atlanta.
I was 100. I'm pretty sure I was on the Florida. Oh, actually, I don't know. I'm generally on the Florida side, but I currently no, definitely.
You were,
not.
You were absolutely on the Florida side. Yes, but yeah, I mean, Atlanta are looking good, and they've only gotten better recently. It felt like at some point in the season, they just, I don't know, they not just got good, they got good in the right ways, where it was like you could see they understood how team coordination and like how the meta was supposed to function. And since then, they've just been good at being able to adapt as well. Like all of the metas that have cropped up, they've had the right idea of how to play them. It feels like all the coaching problems that we were, maybe we're misattributing what the issue was, but that screams coaching to me when a team suddenly just like clicks and gets it.
I tell you what, I think Hawks play over the last few weeks and games, like especially on the Diva, has been fucking awesome. Like Gator as well, I think on the Rhine really kind of
Gator fucking
leveled
owned
up
in this game, man. He fucking owned. I wanted to give him player of the match even though they lost, but I was shot down. But I think he had the fucking game of his life here. This is the best I've ever seen Gator perform.
The way I like to think about Atlanta Reign here and their performances, like the last month or so, is I have a hard time seeing Atlanta Reign sucking. Like really, like in what scenario would they be a bad team? Like how would they shit the bed? I have a hard time after what I've seen from the Atlanta Reign this past month. I have a hard time seeing this be a bad team. Like
The
in any
only
case, the rest of
difficult
the
thing is
season.
like, you know, I can agree with you. Can you see them being the best team in a certain scenario?
If they,
I mean, they could here. Like, if they made some small adjustments here, they could beat the likes of Dallas Fuel. I think, you know, if you want to go to the stage playoffs, I think Shanghai Dragons are still like probably getting the better end of you. But still, like Atlanta Reign, the fact they're competing with Dallas Fuel like this, consistently being good now, like they're a great team, and I don't see, like, unlike some of the other teams that are like mid-table in NA who are competing, you know, in and out. Sometimes, you know, you found a stage meta that works for you. I feel like Atlanta Reign, even if Gator and Hawk don't play the Rhine or the Orisa, like if they were forced onto Wrecking Ball or Winston, I could still see them being competitive somewhat in their lowest point. Like I don't see them sucking or like having one good stage and that being it, you know?
yeah,
I think to continue to play like this the rest of the season.
they also have that experience from playing in the June Joust now and actually traveling to Hawaii and playing big games. So I would expect them to do better the second time around because you don't have that same like
They know what to
nerves
expect
issue or,
now.
like, yeah, they know what it's like playing against the best teams in the league.
Yeah,
I mean,
feel...
even yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Oh no, I was gonna say, like, not even the best teams in the league, they know the process of having to travel to Hawaii and like what the entire kind of process entails, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, for me, I think Rain, it's hard to argue that they're really, really good. They're good last stage. But when I look at this team long term, I still don't know. I'm still skeptical about like where do they fit in on the dive heavy meta again, you know? Um, especially when we saw like their performance in stage one, right? In like a meta that was like obviously it was essentially rush, but there was like a lot of dive elements to it at times. So I feel like they've been. It's hard to argue that this team is not top tier in an A when you get to play their comfort metas, right? When you get to play like metas that they're like really really good at so far historically. But I don't know if that would ever change if we ever get off this sort of like brawl style. But currently, like all things Overwatch, we tend to go brawl unless there's mitigating factors because it's just the easiest way to play Overwatch. So, I mean, it's going to be hard to argue that they're not going to continue to be a top team in North America unless the meta drastically shifts. And they've definitely proven that. I mean, right now, I think they're the second best team in NA. So
Also, I don't want to move away from the topic here as well, but just as a side thing as well, we had that patch introduced, you know, with the 30% hit scan, whatever thing, and it seems like it's just Orisa and Ryan on live service right now, which bodes well for the Atlanta Reign. Going into Countdown Cup or whatever, if that holds. So
yeah, well, I mean, hit scan nerf means you can't just like roll the shields 24/7, right? So yeah, I don't know. I think Atlanta looked insane. I think Hawk looks crazy, like Matt was talking about. Gators look great, but I expected Gator to look. I honestly, the person that's popped off even more so than Hawk as well. Like I know Hawk was looking a lot better no matter what, but I think Moss's impact. He was like invisible a lot of the times earlier in the season, and I feel like he started to actually contribute like a lot more. And they've figured out their synergy a lot to like because it's weird because Mossa was like a really. We look back to like 2019. Mossa was a very big like main support like player entering the league. Like people were very big on Mossa, and he kind of like he did pretty well in 2019, and then he kind of fell off in 2020, like where he just was around average. And now I feel like he's back to his old self, where he's like a high impact player again, with how they're playing around him and the boops he's getting.
Oh,
a little Discord there.
The other part of this game as well, and the meta in general actually, is everyone's playing with, oh not everyone, but these top teams are playing with Sim all the time, and that was something quite unique that Dallas Fuel brought out at the end of the May Melee when they just 3-0 smashed Houston and Shock to be able to get into the tournament. It feels like now everyone is good with it. It's like everyone is as good as they were back then.
She's so good against the shields, right? But I think the one thing we've seen teams really level up over probably, since Dallas started running it now, like the usage of the teleporter. like it's something that, we've seen teams use in the past in certain situations, but like seeing people like TP juke out of blizzards now and like all sorts of like different shenanigans with it, which just adds to how strong she is, right? The ultimate is strong, the turrets are annoying to deal with, but the teleporter and the just team mobility aspect is huge.
Yeah, I love
I think
it.
it needs to
I
be
feel
nerfed
like it's-
potentially.
You think it needs to be
think it's-
nerfed? What, the teleport?
I do. I've talked to a bunch of I've been talking to a bunch of players about it, and the more I've thought about it, I've realized I think the TP is the fun part of her kit, so we shouldn't like nerf it into the. I think there are other things that Symmetra needs. I think Symmetra in general, not so much. I think the TP could take a nerf though, because it does. It's very strange in how it interacts right now. Where like it's the best way to deal with Mei and shields, because like so you see the only team set up fights where like you even saw it on Nepal there, where Atlanta holds close, trying to bait out the Blizzard, and they just TP away from Blizzard. Like
Yeah.
they just leave, right? Which is cool, but also in a way, if you can just teleport away from every ult, like half the ults in the cast, it's kind of like silly in a way. And which I think it's cool for like a one-time play, but if you can constantly rotate and take like just constantly TP throughout a fight, it kind of messes up the whole idea of like what is a rotation anymore. Also, what's the point of dive when you can just play sim, right? Like,
Yeah.
why even play
Yeah.
dive anymore? Because you can just teleport your Reinhardt
Well,
onto the high ground.
I think that's the
and you
biggest
can do
reason
it
we've moved away
all the
from
time.
dive. Yeah,
It's
I
like
mean, dive
global
was-
mobility. It's insane.
Yeah, it is.
So I
It's
think
crazy,
there's
but it's
so
also
if it mitigates a whole style of play, I feel like that's a little too strong, right?
Yeah, the thing is though, I think it also empowers a style of play, which is cool, and it does require pretty decent coordination to be able to pull it off properly.
Yeah.
Like the pace that these teams are playing at is really high. They're making decisions extremely fast, trying to punish the teleports when they come out, adjust their positioning dependent on the other players' teleports. Like, I would hate to see it disappear that quickly. I feel like
Yeah, I think it
I'm
needs time.
down for another couple weeks, maybe a couple months.
No, I'm down
of
for the
sim
stage to
silliness.
finish out on this meta. I'm down for the stage to finish out on this meta, like 100%. Like that's okay. We want to see it, but I feel like, and also I don't think the teleporter has to be the main thing that needs to be changed exactly, right? Like I don't think we need to do some sort of hard nerf to the TP. I think maybe putting like a cooldown on how fast you can take it is fine. I also think just Sim needs some nerfs in general. Why she's so strong in Brawl currently is because like her left click is just insane in long fights.
She has a lot of
Her left
damage.
click is actually ridiculous. So, but overall, I think the overall concept of Sim being meta is super cool. But I don't know. It seems really tough because we just returned to the same old problem of like we were playing Brawl. You can't poke the Brawl because now we've nerfed hit scan, and on top of that, like good luck playing Pharah or Echo into this shit, right? Because you're just gonna get TP'd on and killed. You know, it's just impossible. And then so now there's no reason to play dive into this to play dive to counter those heroes because you just TP onto them, right? So it's added some issues, and I feel like this is just the fact of like teams have gotten better. Teams have gotten better. They've realized how good Sim is once Dallas started playing it, because it's just one of those things where people don't realize how strong a hero is until someone innovates and plays it. But overall, I'm really cool with the concept of Sim being more meta though.
It does feel like dive is dead. When you watch the Dallas Fuel try and run it here on Route 66 and get the third fastest time on the entirety of the history of Overwatch set against them on Route, I mean, at that point, you're just playing Ryan all the time. You're just giving up.
Yeah. It's been the rise of summons, of the totems, like Torb, Symmetra, like anything that can summon something is fucking pretty good right now.
Anyone who has like a pet, like
anyone that it's pretty good. Like
Who else has a pet in the game?
It's cool. It's cool though.
There must be other people, aren't there? That have
I mean, I think
pets?
technically, Diva's mech is considered like a pet. Like if you were to, like I think the way they actually like program it and stuff. But like, what you have a Sim with the turrets, Torb.
Batiste,
with, like,
Batiste with an immortality field. Does that
Batiste-
count?
Batiste technically has
Mortality.
one, yeah. I mean, May's ult is theoretically a summon because it's like a little Snowball the robot.
Okay, I like
So-
it.
I guess like Ash with Bob would be like a.
Yeah, Ash with Bob is a summon.
Okay.
I mean, also Orisa Supercharger is technically like a summon because it's
Right,
like a
okay. I mean, we're
replaceable
getting
thing.
we're getting a little off track here though, because I don't
every
think
hero.
those are.
Do you guys-
missing.
yeah, that's
Do
what
you
I
guys
got.
remember when Torbjorn had 3 levels to his turret and you had to hammer it to upgrade it?
Yeah, and then you
Yeah,
have to
thinking
get
about
Superpower
tier
out
two.
Still
and place a dispenser.
reminiscing.
Do you remember when Sim TP was her ultimate, but it was also global, so you could put it in your spawn and just like go across the map?
Yeah, but it
I remember
only
you
had
do
a
the
certain
shield
number
gen-
of charges, right? That you were able
I
to
think it
use.
had
Yes, there was
like,
only a certain number of
charges.
charges. Yeah.
Oh, you could
But then she
swap it
also-
for a shield generator as well.
Yes, she also had the shield generator, which was like permanent until they destroyed it.
What the frick?
Yeah,
man?
that was wild.
And then you,
Crazy.
I said when we were doing like the PvP stream for like Overwatch 2, like in the rehearsals, we were just chatting, and I was like, Imagine if like they came out today and introduced a character that had 2 ultimates. One was a global teleporter, and the other was like a perma shield gen. And then she could shoot shields out like Sigma. Remember that? She could
Okay.
Oh,
This is how we
yeah,
did
she
a 4-hour
could.
show.
That
yeah,
was
she could
wild.
shoot shields
She
out
was
like
able
Sigma.
to. Yeah, for a little bit.
And then she also had an auto lock on weapon. If they announced that character today, people would riot. People would go nuts.
Yeah, they might. Okay, well, this was the game of the week, but another really crucial game, actually, was Houston's win over the San Francisco Shock. And I want to pose a question to you guys here. Can Houston make it to Hawaii? Where's the peak of this team? Because we're talking about Dallas being great, Atlanta looking really strong. The Gladiators also looked pretty decent in their first week. There is stiff competition still, but can Houston do it? Is this... We actually thought that the 7-1 record in the first half of the season would end up slipping quite a lot because their schedule gets harder. Part of that is their game against the Shock, but they've come out swinging. Like, Houston looked good. I think there's an argument you could make that Houston are actually the second best team. I don't agree with that. I think it's Dallas, Atlanta myself as well, but I think it's very plausible that they could be second. You know, they might even win the game against Dallas that they've got coming up and be the best team. It's hard to know. What's your gut feeling, little pet head?
Are they the best team that hasn't made it to Hawaii yet?
Guess so.
I guess you would say that, right? Unless you still thought the Shock was better than them.
That's
we just
crazy
saw what they
too,
did
yeah.
to the Shock. I think you kind of have to say the Outlaws.
I mean,
like,
Glads fans also would say Glads, but
Yeah, I think I rate Houston higher than Glads almost.
Yeah.
Because Glads, I'm sorry, you're flaccid, okay? You got your moments, but
Wow.
Houston Outlaws, they're actually they're actually pounding. You know, they're beating the Shock. Glads, you need a couple of big wins.
Gladiators
love to
beat
see
the
the
Shock
Outlaws,
as well.
I would also love to see them make it to Hawaii. I think this team is so talented across the board. One thing I'm actually really impressed with is just like how their support line has developed throughout the year. Like you don't really see Juby coming out, at least here in this tournament.
thank
He
God.
plays Brig
He's
now.
been playing. Yeah, he's been playing a lot of the roles, so you kind of see his development. I'm happy Crimzo is able to break out of the fuel jail of last year and kind of actually be a part of like a real team because he's been playing quite good. Just a really strong roster all around. And I think when you have a player like Dante who is so good at so many different heroes, like you're at least gonna have one DPS player who can like pop off at times. But then we've seen Happy play a lot of different things throughout the year as well. So I'm pretty
Piggy,
high on
you didn't
the
even
Outlaws.
mention Piggy, man.
Well, I
Like,
mean, Piggy. I mean, his Sigma stats are like the best
His
in the
Sigma's
league by
ridiculous.
far.
Dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you go to Sigma power rankings with IBM Watson, his score with Sigma is 129.
yeah.
Okay, 129. So like 100 is like normalized, 100 is like average. You kind of win, lose. You don't, you're neutral. Biggest score is 129. The second highest is Void at 108.
That is ridiculous. That is actually
So-
absurd. What?
So Pig is like 25% more effective on Sigma than any other player. Like he's number 6 overall in the league for this week.
Yeah. I mean, also, I think you have to be careful when you say something like that. Like, he's
that also includes
most
their previous
effective overall, 'cause
schedule.
that assumes
like-
IBM is actually accurate at being able to track the right stuff. Which,
Yeah, it's just a way of measuring, Like I'm just not. It's
Yeah.
not just subjective as well. Like there's some data, and you want to argue about the data, sure, but this data at least backs.
Yeah, I'm interested though.
Piggy
What are
line.
they tracking that Piggy is outperforming everybody so hard in? Is it because they're is Piggy just putting in like insane amounts of damage, or does he not die very much? Like what
He
is
doesn't.
part of
When
this?
we looked at the stats after the game that we casted, I think it was it may have been the game against the Titans. I think, or we casted another Outlaws game. I think this week, but
Vancouver, yeah.
He like the amount of damage he puts out is like unreal. Like gravitic flux kills is like through the roof, and then he doesn't die really like at all. He's just always alive.
But yeah,
Yeah.
you can see that yourself in the eye test too. We can all agree Piggy's.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
he
he's really
he
good.
looks nuts. Absolutely.
Really, really
Yeah.
good.
Rookie of
Um,
the year. If they make it to the state playoffs, is he candidate for Rookie of the Year?
Him,
yeah,
Forget
he
he's
is.
a rookie. You almost
He's
forget he's a
definitely.
rookie. Yeah.
I mean, but you also have like Pelican as Rookie of the Year, and like there's so many Rookie of the Year candidates. Don't get me wrong. I think Peggy, like there's a lot. I mean,
One of those
like
teams have
Paris
won a
on their
tournament,
current
I
run
think
with
you'd have to
Khan.
put them.
Like there's
Yeah.
so many rookies. So
Yeah.
many rookies.
Yeah, but I
I'm
think
just saying.
Piggy's a great shout. Like he is absolutely doing well. I mean, there's other people that are flashier, people like Shy or whatever for the Spark, but somebody that's just doing an incredible job in every single game. Piggy's absolutely a candidate. To me, I am really impressed that they've found the success that they have with this tank line. I think the scouting here is extraordinarily good to pick these two up. I didn't really have that much faith in them. I thought that they'd be good on the stuff that they'd already showcased they were good at in contenders, but I didn't think they'd be as versatile as they have been. And you could argue that Django hasn't been that versatile when it comes to Winston because they've subbed Dreamer in to play some of that and some of the Orisa, but Django's back in playing Orisa. He's been insanely good on Rhine. So you can't really argue too much with this tank line. They're up there performing with the absolute best in a brand new rookie year. That is really unusual for a tank line. The Houston Outlaws really have found something special here.
It kind of feels like Houston Outlaws this year. It's like the Guangzhou Charge of last year. Where like, maybe I'm reaching a bit. Where like Piggy and Krong, and then Django is kind of solid overall. Rio, you got Happy in the lineup still. Dante Eileen. I don't know. It feels kind of similar. It's a sick team, the composition.
I think Django's a little flashier than Rio ever has been as well. Like Django's had some sick moments where he's just taken the game over, which is a rarity to find from Rio.
Yep.
But yeah, this is a nasty
Especially
team.
this year.
Also,
do they make it? Do they make it to Hawaii? If they get into a knockout scenario, do they beat a Dallas? Do they beat an Atlanta? Can they get past Gladiators, Washington? I don't know. I mean, Washington are dog shit. I don't know why I'm bringing them up. But these other teams, can Houston make it?
It would depend on them. I mean, like, for me, I feel like Atlanta are still... I feel like Atlanta right now are just better at this meta still. When I watch them play, I feel like their current understanding is crazy. I think Outlaws are a more well-rounded team. Overall, though, I think they're a more well-rounded team, but I feel like Atlanta's current understanding of the meta and like their usage of TP is nuts.
It also could depend on seeding. Like if the Outlaws are able to get that, if the Outlaws are able to get that like #1 spot and then basically lock up a Atlanta versus Dallas matchup to see who gets in out of those two, and they have to play like one of the other remaining teams, like whether it's like Gladiators or Justice in an oddball scenario or Paris. Like I think you would definitely favor the Outlaws in those scenarios.
Is it weird? Oh, go on. Sorry, Johnny.
No, I was just gonna follow up on that. Like honestly, like if we got 3 slots here, we're probably thinking Atlanta Reign, Houston Outlaws, Dallas Fuel. And it's like if you have to play Dallas Fuel for your slot to go to the playoffs, and the other team gets like Shock or Gladiators, hell, even
Shock may not even make qualifiers.
Yeah, I mean, hell, even Toronto Defiant, Boston Uprising are 2-0. There's some like the seeding is definitely going to matter, like Matt says. And I still think that Dallas Fuel is probably the best team in the region. So if Houston Outlaws faces Dallas Fuel to play in Hawaii, I'm not going to favor them. But if they make it and beat Dallas, great.
I mean, they already play Dallas coming up this week as well, so we'll get a little preview of how that looks. I want to jump back onto Avast's comment where he talked about meta understanding. Is it weird that I'm okay, I don't know whether I really believe this, but I have like an inkling that I need to look into more on the replay viewer, I think, where I was very impressed by Houston shutting down the Shock's usage of teleporter plays. And also, even when like Dallas was playing against Florida, the times when they were trying to teleport into Orisa compositions, and Florida was just planning for it and had already kind of like set up and was punishing them. Like BQB had repositioned to flashbang them as they came through the teleporter, and they just tore them to pieces as soon as they TP'd. I'm not exactly sure what direction this meta is going into. I could see it pivoting in one or two directions. Either sim TP plays are too creative, like there's too many areas that you can teleport to. It's really difficult for the Orisa comps to be able to punish it. But I could see it forking in the direction that Double Shield or Orisa Diva or something like that is able to hold its ground and like punish teleporter usage to try and close the gap against it. Because I think we've seen a fairly decent amount of that with the Dallas Fuels map losses to Mayhem and also the Houston Outlaws 3-0 in the Shock.
If you go back and watch some of the Outlaw stuff, they did some really nice plays where, the Shock and even the Titans in their series, they would TP in. I think one I can remember is like Hanamura, where they would TP in and the Outlaws knew exactly where the TP was placed and where it would be going. And they would have a halt ready. So as soon as they all came through the TP, it basically grabbed them to the ground and they were just not ready for it, like whatsoever. Where they do have a lot of different things set up.
I think that might, if I had a hot take, I think that might be where the direction of the meta is going. When I watch like Shanghai play against it as well, where if you try and teleport into them, Void's got his rock like ready to catch someone with an accretion, and then they swarm on that target. I feel like that style might end up making more inroads as we move forward. I feel like Houston is in the fucking driver's seat. Like I believe in this team. Not enough to predict them over Dallas though, because it's fucking Dallas, but my heart and my brain are going in two different directions. I actually think that Houston could be nasty fucking good after watching them, but there just isn't enough data right now.
And these fans also, the Houston fans, Jesus Christ, they've had a brutal run in the league. They deserve a Hawaii trip. Hopefully if they make it, it doesn't end in disaster, but they at least deserve to see it happen.
Sure.
I think TPs are still too flexible myself. I think it's going to make it more even where TP is not the sole strategy you can play. Like you can win playing these double shield comp and it can be good, but I don't think it's going to like determine the meta necessarily, because when you went back and watched like Atlanta play in particular and also Dallas after the Mayhem match, they changed up their routes a lot. They had a lot more varied routes because there's a lot of very set TP spots on a lot of maps and teams predict them to go there. Yeah. So like teams have there's never been a meta so far where it's like, guys, they're expecting our sim TP setup. Everyone, like we need to change. No one has ever like played sim enough to where I feel like we've gotten a route past the default sim TPs. And so far to me, which is why I feel so confident in Atlanta, they're the only team to really bust out some like crazy TP shit.
Okay.
Like aside from the checkmate reverse charge through the TP, like
Okay.
Besides that,
all right. Well, let's talk about that. All right, let's fucking talk about that. Checkmate for the Florida Mayhem. First of all, is it the right move for the team?
What other move do you have?
Keep an OG in, I guess.
Oh no, it does. I don't. If you sub out your main tank for Checkmate, it probably runs deep. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you don't do that on a whim. You don't get Albert Ye to be like, hey, can you sign this PDF file we're going to publish on Twitter.com right now about removing our main tank? Like, if you do that, you're not going to go back to OG after 1 weekend of matches, because that lacks long-term vision.
They also have a major break right now.
They do.
I believe the next match is until August 6th.
Yeah,
really?
Crazy.
That's a full month break.
Yeah, they went 0-4, so they're not going to qualifiers.
Well, true.
Right, yeah. And then they may actually even be off for like the first week of the next tournament or something like that. I haven't checked the schedule, but they do have a very long break, so maybe it's more time to get Checkmate ready, or some time to bring in somebody else. But honestly,
if Checkmate plays the rest of the season with his team, their season is over. They have to sign someone.
There's no way they can do
their season's almost over anyway. They'd have to pretty much go.
There's literally zero way.
They'd have to go 4-0 in the final thing to even give themselves a chance at 500. They would finish 500, right? 8-8. Like if they go undefeated in the next tournament, like their seasons. Yeah,
I think people were off the goop anyways. When people were like, "Why didn't they sign someone?" The season's halfway over. If you sign someone halfway through the season, you have to go through visa process. When do they get? They could get there by the stage 4, right? And then at that point, you're not going to salvage your season necessarily anyway.
But here's my question: So first of all, has it been confirmed whether they benched OG or whether OG benched himself? Because he made a comment on Twitter that I linked in the channel, if we're able to bring it up.
I don't think we know, right?
Where he kind of joked, I don't know whether it was a joke, that's the thing. He said, in a reply to Taimu, he said, the reason I asked Checkmate to be main tank because I was thinking about Taimu Winston, no cap. But I can't tell whether that is no cap or whether that is cap.
I could see OG.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Honestly.
There's just so much to unpack here. Like, this is a team that I agree with the statement that they have way more talent than being a 4-12 type of team, right? You have Yaki BQB, you have Gargoyle, fucking Gangnam Jin. Like, you shouldn't be bad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a massive disappointment this
Their
season.
next 4 games, by the way, Atlanta, Boston, Houston, Gladiators.
Oh, it's over.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
looking
it is
pretty.
absolutely
It's looking pretty rough.
That could be a 4-12 season where
It's
what
pretty
they won 3 of those games in the May Melee.
Yeah.
And went to the
Like,
playoffs.
that's unreal. For the last 3 tournaments of the year, they win 1 game. Like, oh, that is a wild.
This is
Yeah.
a disaster. I will admit though, the Checkmate Orisa is not bad.
No, it isn't. No, it's bad. It's very, very, very bad.
On
No.
the Checkmate
The-
scale of tanks, it is
The
it's
Checkmate
least
Orisa.
worst.
Okay, when you compare the Checkmate Orisa to the Checkmate Ryan and the Checkmate Winston, the Checkmate Orisa is legitimately way better. And on
It's-
top of that, Florida also have a real understanding of like what they want to sort of play around that a bit. But I say that based heavily off the Dallas match, and then I look at the Justice match, and they unbelievably papiche. They went backwards so far that I don't
Oh,
even
yeah.
know. Like,
yeah. They,
I don't even know what happened in this match. Like it
this
seems
match-
like
Casting this match was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. This match was just ridiculous. It was just
They
there
were
was
playing
no,
Why do you
Ryan
look at their
Orisa at the
comps?
beginning.
What are these fucking comps?
Yeah,
Why are you playing
I know.
Torb?
Joe.
Why are you playing Torb into double hit scan? Like, what is this?
Joe,
Like,
come on.
it's silly.
Trying to take the point back with Torb Orisa against double hit scan. Like, what in the fuck?
What
I mean, like
love
the
as
thing
well-
is that the Orisa could like work at least, but you're playing Torb into
What I
double
love
hit
is
scan.
that the Justice came in and their DPS players were just like, all we're going to do is shoot at Checkmate. That's our plan. That's our game plan. They were running Hanzo Echo just to fuck Checkmate up. And he was getting caught out of position all
Yaki had
the
such a
time,
good-
going
Yaki was
way
so
too
good on
aggro.
Tracer throughout this.
Yeah,
comms
it's just so
issues
wild that
constantly.
they're like to me, I legitimately think that like if we remove this match and we take the Dallas Fuel Mayhem match, we're like, you walk away with this like, okay, Checkmate main tank, theoretically hope. But then we go to this match and you're like, holy shit, like what's going wrong? But I don't even think this was the Checkmate main tank was the full issue in this match. Mayhem's comps were just dog shit, like versus Justice a lot of
Comps
times.
and the game plan as well. Like their play
Yeah.
style, they were so slow. It was so serious. Like literally on Route 66, I think their actual game plan, what they wrote down on paper was Yaki's gonna look for pulse bombs, and then if he doesn't, we lose. If he does find pulse bomb picks, we go and we win.
Yeah.
And I think that was literally it.
I mean,
that was
I
the
think-
way
yeah.
Route 66 played out.
I think
It was a
Yaki just
joke.
realized he had to hard carry at that point. Like,
Yeah.
he's
Dude, he almost pulled it off on Route 66 on Tracer.
So
He's a crazy
I don't
player.
understand. I don't understand. This is my fault for being a bad analyst here. This is my job to actually know this. But I don't understand why they just didn't keep playing like Reinhardt Symmetra and instead opted into the Orisa double shield against Washington Justice. Some of it
I
is
don't know.
map,
wait.
but I'm like, I thought Florida would win because they like played Checkmate and just YOLO Washington Justice.
Yeah.
Notoriously have been the slower
It's
team all season.
trash. But they were trash at Rhine.
But I know Checkmate's Ryan is not good though. Like that's
But
the
you
thing.
throw
Checkmate's Ryan is
Washington Justice
legitimately
off
not
guard. Like you make it hard for the Washington Justice. Playing this slower tempo into Washington gives the room and opportunity for players like Decay and Assassin to carry, and it gives an opportunity for Fury and Mag to outplay Checkmate long term. Whereas if you just play Rush, dude, just fucking go with the Symmetra and Reinhardt TP. Yeah, it's gonna look like dog shit. Washington Justice, it's like what their worst thing all season has been executing team fights well. Like they don't,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
don't
I see
make
what you mean.
good snap decisions.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, Florida, or you already have game tape of this mad bastard out on the battlefield. You're not getting caught off guard in the same way that Dallas might have been. And even Dallas, I mean,
the same comps.
they weren't necessarily caught off that much. They kind of.
No, they
Kinda
weren't. They
fucking
weren't. Like when you
plowed
watch
them.
the series go on, Florida's best success is on Orisa.
It's the
Checkmate's
only
Orisa.
success.
It's the realistically the Orisa. I would have preferred if Mayhem played a very fast-paced tempo, but with Orisa, which you can do. Like you've seen teams play like a very like aggressive Orisa style, including Mayhem in the Dallas match, and it's actually legitimately not terrible strategy, and it could still pressure Justice's weaknesses here. But they just kind of papiche. Like Route 66 was the only time where they sort of had a modicum success because they were at least playing a synergistic comp. They look at this fight right here. Like look how aggressive they're being with the Orisa comp, right? Like this is what you need to be seeing from Mayhem the entire time. And you saw it versus Dallas when they played on like Gibraltar and shit like that, they just played very, very aggressive with Checkmate Orisa. The Checkmate Orisa is legitimately workable. It is workable for this team because you can enable Yaki, you can enable BQB.
Here's the question.
I feel bad for Checkmate as well.
Yeah, I think it tanks Checkmate's reputation a little bit in the same way it does with Hydration. But I mean, he wasn't getting playtime anyway, so it's not like it.
But keep him off Ryan and Winston. Keep him the fuck off those heroes forever.
But here's my big problem with all of this as well is how can you have let things get so bad with OG, either in terms of his mentality where he wants to bench himself or his play that you feel like moving to Checkmate is the better option.
This is not a thing that happened overnight, right? Like if this was after the last tournament, why didn't they get a tank, then? Yeah,
but also, I mean, the thing with Florida was at the beginning of the season, the people huffing the copium on OG were saying that this is the best team he's ever had to succeed in. You have a main tank as your head coach, and you have a good team system with which to play in. You're not, struggling to develop synergy. All the rest of the team has synergy. You're coming in, you're slotting in, you're playing your role. That should be the best way that you can possibly
Every
succeed.
other player is all-star caliber on the team.
Yeah, and it still goes so drastically wrong. But also, the Florida Mayhem did look marginally better with Checkmate in against the game with Dallas because Checkmate was blood sacrificing himself to make space for BQB and Yaki. If that is like going so drastically the wrong way, but it still has some benefits, like you are throwing a player in to die in order to create space for your DPS players. That is clearly not a workable strategy in the long term.
It's Season 1 Roshan Dragon.
It's genuinely Season 1 Fraggy. That's what it looks like.
It's the undead. It's the undead McCree.
The Checkmate line reminded me of the Fraggy Winston. But
the thing is, the Orisa, you can actually, there's more workarounds for that because you're playing Orisa. And so
but you can't play Orisa for the rest of the season. You can't have a main tank that can only play Orisa.
I mean, you can try. You can definitely try. I don't know. I mean, there's not much to say. I don't know why people keep on get a main tank player, though, because the season's halfway over. Pine's not even in the States, and he was signed like 2 stages ago.
I was just about to say the most ridiculous thing.
You can't get a new player for this team. If you're going to get a player, it's going to have to be another Korean player, and the visa situation takes too long.
That's why I dislike them even trying Checkmate as well.
Why can't they play from Korea? Am I dumb here? Like Fielder played for Players Eternal last year.
I don't think I think they'd prefer to not do that. And also, I mean, look at the difference between Fielder's play last year to Fielder's play this year. Like Fielder played great for Atlanta,
it's that or Checkmate, bro.
No, why can't Cookie play? The guy wasn't a tank. He's the coach of the team. Why can't he play?
I mean, I mean, sure, I know, I agree, but I personally, they must believe in this, and I legitimately see something with the Checkmate Orisa. But do I think it's great? No. Do I think Reinhardt and Winston should ever be played for that guy? Do I think they should just put masking tape over those heroes for Checkmate? You should never touch them ever. They should never even look at that. And I think you can get through the rest. You could definitely get through the rest of this season with an Orisa player only. I think, unless she gets like banned. If she gets banned, holy fuck, that team is doomed.
That would be very fucking funny. I mean, Ryan can't be banned, right? From the tank pool, so it's got to be something else.
Yes, because he got banned from the last one. But
God,
why can't Cookie play? He played fucking tank,
bro.
I mean, he hasn't played tank in like 2 years.
He's probably not been playing ranked. He's been putting all this time into coaching.
He also would have to get a player contract, and the only coach that has a player contract is coach and player Jake. So
true. The reason that this bothers me though as well is that you are just giving up on OG, right? Like even if OG comes back in, you've missed out.
Do you want to have that conversation then? Do you want to have that conversation? Is it over for OG?
I can't see a team.
This is it, bro. This is it, bro.
I think it's
if OG doesn't come back in and he's not going to play the rest of the season, it's over, dude. OG's not going to be in the Overwatch League anymore. We waited for this guy for 3 fucking years to blossom and like turn it to like the good shit. It hasn't happened, and this was, I think, his last opportunity. I don't. I'm not going to personally blame him, but I'm saying like a player, as it is, can only get so many opportunities, and I think this is it.
And I mean, you kind of look towards the future, right? With like 5-on-5, like could you trust him as the only tank on a roster? Like potentially, right? Like who knows how rosters are constructed? Maybe
the guy just pops off in Overwatch 2 and comes back. But that's
theoretically
what
it could be better for him in Overwatch 2 if you don't have to worry less about your tank synergy and things like that, and like how that
That's
it's just
true.
like
And we have no
brawl, right?
clue, right?
But we have no clue how that works, right? So I mean, I agree. I feel like this is like such an extreme vote of no confidence that. But I think there's always room. Like, I mean, the Vancouver Titans are still around.
Yeah, but
Like,
you're just
they're-
going there to die. You are going there to die. And by
Yeah.
the time you would revive your career, like even if you went to Vancouver and you popped the fuck off, by the time he gets back into the good graces of the other coaches around the league and they're willing to give him a shot, it is Overwatch 2 time.
I also couldn't
Unless the
see
game
like
gets delayed a fucking 1,000 years, which is also
I also
possible.
couldn't see him like doing something like going to a Titans or going to like you know, a struggling like Charge or somebody like that. Like sure, you might be an upgrade and he might play, but like could you see him, you know, after playing on the Dallas Fuel and whatnot, like could you see him making a change like that? Like
Hey man, if a lower team wants to take a bet on him and he makes some Skrilla to play video games, you know, it's still not a bad lifestyle to be in the
between
Overwatch
that
league.
or being in the league, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to make
Yeah,
the
I mean,
choice.
I mean, maybe he shifts
Yeah,
game
yeah.
or something as well. I know that he's been following VCT and stuff, so maybe we see Trill and
The
OG
first main
move to
tank. Oh yeah, I
Valorant.
guess that's Trill. Trill also plays it. He was a main tank player, so yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he can join TSM or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's profoundly sad the way that OG, the trajectory, the arc of OG's career has just ended. Like, or not ended, but it's going in this direction, and it seems to be reaching a conclusion that is profoundly unsatisfactory and sad, honestly, because he did feel at times like he was bristling with potential if someone could sort out the team play aspect, but no one has been able to. And I don't know whether he's lost confidence in himself or whether the team has lost confidence in him, but either way, that's not good.
yeah,
It's very sad.
It's a bit upsetting because he is such like a, you know, fun personality. Like he's clearly got incredible like individual talent, but it seems like on the team level, it just has never come to fruition. Where, you know, now you're stuck with the Checkmate tank, which I'm sure the other players on the Florida Mayhem are not exactly thrilled, right? You know, this is a team that had way higher expectations this year than potentially 4-12, with 3 of those wins coming within the first month of the year.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Yeah, I think we all rooted for OG, so you know, who knows
Yeah.
how the story ends, but
Yeah, it is.
Sad
It
indeed.
is sad. I just before we move off this topic, I want to take a look at Bad Pachamari's tweet about Checkmate, because Bad Pachamari took all of the best moments of Checkmate and put them together.
banger video.
I'm gonna put. Oh, I just bookmarked it. I didn't even know you could bookmark stuff on Twitter. How does that even work? I don't know where that's gone now, but I've put the link in Discord for you. So I want us all to bathe in the greatness of this.
And the guy was a psycho on the Reinhardt. I mean,
yeah.
just absolute madman.
Yeah.
I mean,
this
to be
was-
fair, no other team had done this sort of crazy shit with Orion in
There
quite
he
the same
is,
way.
fucking a legend.
yeah.
I mean, also
love
this
Checkmate.
play lost. I mean, so many of these plays like legitimately just lost his team a fight as well. Like the only time these charge plays were like really good were like when they set up a TP generally to where he like forced someone out of position. But like
My
he's playing
favorite-
Reinhardt and he just perma-fed and then they just shattered his team because he was always positioned.
My
So-
favorite was when he would charge through the TP coming the other way. Like,
Yeah.
got the fucking. Like,
Yeah.
those were
But
the
so you can
best.
actually do that with the Orisa because you're girthy enough to where you can like sort of do this crazy shit. But
That was
on-
one halt kill. It's like, yep, it's going through the montage.
yeah.
Love it.
I mean,
You know what though? I mean, it's yeah. Like I feel happy when he has like this stuff like this that works out because like the shit ain't his fault. Like he came here fucking expecting to be a fucking DPS player, then all of a sudden it's like, well, shit, you're our best option at tank. Like, and what is he supposed to do? Like, if he just says no, like, what happens to the team, right? Like,
Yeah.
like in order for this team to keep like playing and trying to move forward, he has to kind of be this sacrificial lamb. Which, like, yeah, it is kind of funny to see these ridiculous plays, but like, also you got to feel for the guy. I mean, he's
Yeah.
out there just trying his best, you know.
yeah. No, of course. He's doing his
God
job.
damn it, some of the plays he makes is fucking insane. I mean,
I just
love
hope
him.
people don't hold it against him in the future, like, and
Right,
actually
yeah.
judge him by his DPS play. But we also barely saw his DPS play, so that's gonna be hard in and of itself.
I also just love how ironic it is that his name is Checkmate, and he just charges into the back line. Like, it's
like
not chess at all. It's just YOLO. It's just go. It's so funny.
Well, let's talk about another team that's in the middle of the pack and potentially struggling a little too. The Washington Justice. Jonathan, you've named them the 2021 Gatekeepers here. Can you explain your theory? This is a role that the Atlanta Reign have given up recently. They are no longer the Gatekeepers.
They passed it on.
You want the Washington Justice to pick up the mantle, is that it?
The story behind this was that I ended last night's broadcast. It was July 4th, and I wanted to go drinking, and I wrote down something witty. I don't have any data to actually back this claim up. I would have preferred you leaving my name out of it when you actually brought this up. But the fact remains that the Washington Justice were able to get some wins from the lower-end teams, and then they usually shit the bed against the top teams. Again, I'm trying to find their matches. I'm not talking about it out of my ass because I am.
Yeah, can we take a look at their matches and just see whether that pattern actually tracks? Because last year for Atlanta, it does make perfect.
It does make some sense because, like, Washington, what we've seen from them is like they can win games just off of their individual skill. It's like the coordination at the highest level where they struggle. So yeah, like they'll be able to beat teams just off of having the Decay and Assassin, but against the top teams, at least lately, it seems to not be as effective.
I mean, you're not even Gatekeeper. If you lose to Boston and Paris, I mean, you're not even in Gatekeeper.
Yeah, who are you gatekeeping?
But Paris is actually, well, I guess that Paris wasn't as good. But I know, because wasn't that was the meta, that was when Paris was decent, was in a June Joust, right? So I feel like Paris is actually, right now, I think Paris is a legitimately pretty decent team.
Yeah, but when there's a competitive middle of the pack, you need to be gatekeeping someone and not letting them through the gates. And I mean, everyone's gatekeeping London and everyone's gatekeeping Vancouver.
Those teams are locked in jail. They're not even having a chance at the gate. I mean,
yeah. Washington did manage to take a win over the Dallas Fuel, but for the life of me, I can't remember what that game was. When the hell?
There was Winston. There was a Winston duel between Mag and Fearless. It was
when they were playing Winston. Yeah. It was like, if they can play Winston, this team is all right. But if they're ever off of Winston, this team is just tragic.
It was that insane Gibraltar game where Fearless set the record or something, right? For Primal Rage kills. And then
if I would have been more, smarter, I would have wrote this down as like, what's wrong with the Washington Justice? Because this should legitimately be like a top 3 team in the region. And it just seems like they shit the bed every stage in some manner. So in June Joust, they shat the bed with the meta. And like the first 2 games, as we saw, they lost to the Boston Uprising, they lost to the Paris Eternal. And then they figured it out. When they had already lost 2 matches, they figured it out. They were really good at playing the Lucio Moira Winston dive composition, took it to the San Francisco Shock. Like, and people were talking about the Washington Justice, like, hey, these guys are really underrated. They're fantastic in scrims. And now it's the same shit. Like, they come out against Atlanta Reign, playing the Reinhardt Symmetra composition. What are we doing? It's tragic. It was a horrible match to watch. Didn't even cap point A on Junkertown. So like, what's wrong with the Washington Justice here? Do we think it's coaching? Is it the compositions? Is it the mental? We've talked about Washington Justice throughout the season. I feel like this team just like overthinks it. Like they try to be smarter than they have to be. Like, you have a shit ton of individual skill. Just like play to your strengths. And they did that in the Florida Mayhem. So like, yes, Florida Mayhem, play with Checkmate, whatever. But they put Decay on some like mechanical skill hero. Assassin was in the game. He still plays a fantastic Echo as well. And they just like play their game. Like, don't overthink it. Don't try to play like these Reiner compositions if you can't,
Their shot calling.
I don't think the Mayhem game was a good indicator, honestly. I think Mayhem literally.
But they played better comps. They moved away from this bullshit.
Yes, they did play better comps. They did play better comps.
They can play it.
I mean, oh, right. You mean right. I see what you mean. So it's not the comps necessarily that are the problem, but they were trying to mirror Reinhardt into Atlanta when they should have been trying to play dive stuff, you think, instead. Yeah. I don't know. The way that the meta is going, though, it does feel like dive is much less viable than it seemed to be when we were watching this match. Like, when this match happened, it was like, okay, it's weird that they're mirroring so much Rhine against each other. But then the more that we've seen teams play over the course of the week, it does seem like almost everyone is going in the Rhine or Orisa direction. So I don't know really whether it's like you can hold that against the Justice with the benefit of hindsight.
I mean, this team is just like they should be. I mean, you have Decay and Assassin, you have Fury. Like this team should be nuts.
Their
what
shot
we thought
calling
on
looks like it's
Mag?
wank.
Right?
That's
Is
the
it
thing to
the
me.
supports? Like, what do we also think on Mag outside of Winston?
I don't think it's an individual talent problem for any of these players though. I just think it's a coaching problem. I think it's legitimately a coaching
Right.
problem, just a roster that's not put together well. I mean, I think Bebe and Closer have exceeded my expectations, honestly, even though I thought coming in particular, Closer was a relatively solid main support. I just think it's a complete coaching issue. I don't think that you can't look at this team until, because also we've seen Mag perform amazingly earlier in the season. We've seen Fury performed well like throughout the season. We've seen Decay and Jerry and Assassin all perform well. Bebe and Closer, like there's the individual talent's all there. I haven't looked at a player and be like, oh my god, this is tragic. Like maybe Mag has looked tragic at points, but I think that's just because he's playing Reinhardt and a team that has no idea how to play Rush. They have no fucking clue how to play Rush. This team is fucking lost. Like it's just lost, and I don't know how they're so lost because the blueprints in front of them for how to play, like they could literally just copy teams. You have so much talent that if you just copy them and just do it worse, you would still be like a top 6 team at the very least.
Yeah.
So
it's a pity that
it's a coaching issue through and through.
I mean, I also wonder who is actually doing the shot calling within the game. Like, who's carrying the coach's plans to the match? Because that, to me, Justice seemed really poor at realizing when they need to swap away from their plan. You know, like Johnny's saying, where they're trying to set things up for way too long, and they don't realize the realize the timing windows where they should capitalize on opportunities or reposition people or stuff like that. Like Mag here just stays in his corner that presumably his coach has told him to stand in, and they never adjust this. There's no adjustment based on where the Atlanta Reign are or what they're doing. Mag just constantly holds that corner without any assistance and then slowly dies. And
when I casted the
what the fuck
Florida
is that?
one, when I casted the Florida one, I think I said it on the broadcast. So like when Yaki was just dunking on them on the Tracer, I was like, they need to switch off of like Decay. I think was playing Ash or something at the time, or Hanzo. Like he was just getting farmed. And I was like, he needs to go to McCree. And then like final, like they just made these changes and adjustments so late. And as soon as he went to McCree, like Yaki was able to get nothing done. They got a hold. It was like, they just commit to things for so long. And maybe it's just because they're so good individually skilled that they can feel like they can just force their way through it. But like, just make
that
the
is
changes.
That is part of why it's so frustrating, because I completely agree with you, Matt. It's like those compositional choices need to happen faster. And I agree with you, Sideshow, that like Mag, you know, why is he standing here by himself? I can still see though, like the eye test, some of these individual players, like they're so fucking sick, man. Like Assassin on this Echo, his proactiveness in being able to like go aggressive and use his sticky bombs and find these picks, like these are sick players. And that is why it's so frustrating for me to watch the Washington Justice, because I can see the individual skill. I can see them understanding how elite level Overwatch plays. And you can see this in the way they use their ultimates too, where it's like they're trying to turn fights like we would think the Shock would, the Dallas Fuel would. They have this Overwatch instinct similar to those teams. So I'm like, it is right there. It is right there. If you just figure out your compositions, if you figure out your synergy more, it's there for the taking. Because the individual skill, to me, on the ITES level, is there. I can see how these players understand, like how, they're so rigid in a way. Like it from the coaching perspective, it seems from practice they're so rigid as a team. But if they just let loose for a second, I think that if they just relied on their instincts and like the way they think about Overwatch, I think they could level up as a team. I realize this is so abstract, and I'm not doing a good job of explaining it, but I can really see, like, even here when they played like Tracer Genji with this Orisa composition, like it kind of worked. They kind of got away with it.
The only team fights they won. Those were the only team fights they won, is when Assassin went over to Genji. Which
now I think Master swapped to Brig,
what you're saying.
And then it's like, what do you do, right? But you still watch them play this comp, and you're like, holy shit, you're making this work because you're playing your game and you're just freestyling.
Yeah.
Am I talking about aliens, or is
no.
something?
I mean the flow state is real. The flow state is very real. It happens for metas all the time for teams where they just are, and like I don't think Justice would be any different. I mean, if we'd been playing a purely dive centric meta this whole time, Justice would probably be pounded because they would never have to think about it. It would just be natural Overwatch gameplay to them. I mean, to me, it's like I just there's no other thing to look at this other than a failure to teach players how to play. And to be fair, that does partially rest on the players too, because for them being so rigid, players have to make the in-game decisions themselves, and you can't rely on a coach to spoon feed shit to you.
And
So you do have to know how to make those adjustments. But like this is the same coaching staff that was unable to teach Justice how to play like fucking how to play main tank, you know? Like this is the same coaching staff that was
Is
like
it the same coaching staff? I thought it wasn't. I thought Supreme.
No,
got
Pre was the
promoted.
head coach about halfway through that year. So he's been half a year and they still didn't know how to play like Rush, you know, for like them. Like I don't know. I just and the thing is it could be like I've heard good things about Pre as well and Supreme. Or not Pre, but rather Supreme. Pre's
Yeah,
the head
Supreme
GM,
is the
so
head
he's
coach.
not-
Yeah,
Pre is
Pre's
the GM.
yeah.
I should say Supreme. So like Supreme's had talent on the roster before and he doesn't know how to like realize it either for Justice. And I just think that like I don't know. There's something going wrong somewhere. And even if like both Supreme and these players are all really good, it's clear that they're just not clicking and they just can't figure out how to play together. So
And I think
it has to be changed.
the age of Overwatch where like the league just has one meta the entire way through and like you just play that and be good is like so far gone that like you need to be able to make these adjustments, like not even like week to week, but like in game and for specific opponents. Like
Yeah.
just seems
Yeah.
they're way behind on all that.
Well, one team that's absolutely fucking clapping cheeks is the Shanghai Dragons over in APAC. They came in and they actually played the second and third best teams immediately. They came in, they played against Seoul, and then they came in and played against the Philadelphia Fusion, who are now looking good. They're just not being able to do anything against Shanghai. Shanghai pooed on both of them, like actually took a steaming dump on both of those teams. It feels like and I don't think that Seoul and Fusion are actually that bad right now, which is
they aren't.
scary because Shanghai are also not playing what we would consider meta stuff either. It feels like the other teams in APAC are kind of trending towards that. Like Seoul was playing a lot of Rush to begin with. Shanghai is basically just relying on the shit that they were amazing at and always have been. The Tracer and the Sombra. And Lip is having unbelievable impact upon the games. His manual hacks are just insane. Just actually
They're so
insane.
far ahead of everybody else in APAC. Like it's not even like it's just like not even like funny. Like it's just they're just like lapping people in that region. Like it's made the region like you just feel like everybody's competing for second place, but then also you don't want to end up in fourth because you don't want to play Shanghai in the first round of the knockouts. You're pretty much done. And yeah, I think Philly's not even that bad of a team. I still
I don't know how you feel about the APAC region. Like when you go watcher or whatever, like maybe you don't have any emotion at all. Maybe you're robots, but like Shanghai Dragons wants me to. It's like, it's the primary reason, you know, why I want to go watch APAC. I mean, of course, I do it for my job. You know, study up the game, see what teams are doing, etc. But like Shanghai Dragons, they're such an entertaining team that I'm just like excited to watch Shanghai Dragons games. When they play like this and they're just dominating, it's so much fun to watch, man.
I love them.
Truly insane team.
They're nuts. And if you think about like the trajectory they're on, I actually do believe that they're the best team in the league right now. The caveat to that is I don't think they're playing meta. And so when they get to the knockouts, or rather when they get to playing the actual summer showdown, the only concern for me is how they pivot to be able to pick up what is meta. But they managed that during the June Joust, and they ended up coming out on top and winning with like even being able to adapt over the course of a couple of days. So I think Shanghai are the favorites here. I think it's very reasonable to say that somebody like Dallas should be expected to come back and win. They're playing meta comps, they're looking good, but Dallas have actually had a couple of shaky moments. There's been no shakiness from Shanghai. They are just shitting on everyone. And okay, the competition might not be quite as difficult, but I mean, Dallas Fuel were struggling a little bit against like the Florida Mayhem's Orisa kind of comps too. So it's not like it's been the most elite level opponents that Dallas has been playing against either right now. I think that Shanghai look fucking nasty.
I mean, I just want somebody else in APAC to like at least like come through and give them games or like challenge them, right? I think that's the only thing that's like a little bit upsetting about APAC is like, to me, it seems that like as much as we like to think that Seoul Dynasty will figure out eventually, it doesn't seem like they'll get there. I still believe that Philly, like at a full strength, probably is that team. They just obviously adding all their players right now, it's not the best circumstance to challenge a team like Shanghai. I think eventually, though, it will be the Fusion. But yeah, I mean, they're probably honestly super bored in APAC. I mean, they're just rolling these teams. I mean, it's not even they're not even that close. The game.
It is fun to win, Matt. I will say that.
Huh?
Sorry, go on, Josh.
No.
I mean, it's fun to win, but I mean, you got to be. It's got to be boring eventually to just keep rolling through these teams.
I don't know. You might feel like you're on top of the fucking world.
Yeah. We'll talk about the meta later, and stuff like that. But I mean, Shanghai Dragons, they just play this wrecking ball and they just poo on everyone. What more is there to say? They're insane.
Yeah. What happens? How good do you think Shanghai would be at Rush right now if they had to pick up like the Sim and the Rhine, or if they had to pick up Orisa and Sigma? What kind of things do you think would make the difference in that scenario to kind of alter the needle in either way of Shanghai being the best?
You think they need to pick it up?
Are you asking like what do you think they're going to be playing?
No,
or, like how they're going to be playing?
Not what I think they're going to be playing.
What
I'm asking is if the meta became Rhine and they were forced to play it, if the meta became Orisa and they were forced to play it, does any of that shift Shanghai looking like they're the best? Is there a comp where you're worried about them, or a comp where you think they'd be even better than they are now?
I mean, we haven't really seen them. We've seen them play May, but we haven't really seen them play this Sim comp at all.
No one really plays Sim in APAC, right?
Yeah. So I mean, the thing that's worrying is just we don't know what they're going to be in like. We don't know what they're going to be like. It's depending on what the teams are playing, because like we're assuming that both NA teams that make it out of an A to go to Hawaii are going to be playing Sim comps, like Sim May or like something with Sim a large portions of the time. And if Shanghai just doesn't touch it a lot, like who knows? Because then we have to make an adjustment. Like, can I still feel confident in thinking Shanghai will always be good? Like they'll always be able to show up to Hawaii and be good, even if they didn't play that meta at all, what they played in an A. But would they be good at the Sim Rush? I mean, I would think if there's any team positioned to punish that, it'd be Shanghai, because they're just like so fast and they play around their shrinks so well that they'd be the one team to potentially be able to shut down teleports pretty frequently.
Yeah.
Also, like, where do you want to go with your teleporter? Do you just want to TP on top of Void or Isayaki? Because that's like what you have to do. And it's like, have fun. It's harder. It's easier said than done.
It's hard to get that done. So I feel like Shanghai, I don't think Shanghai necessarily have to learn the meta if they continue to play this comp perfectly and like know how to play around the Sim. But it's always going to be like a hard task, and we won't really know until we see them play against an NA team, honestly.
Okay. How close do you think Lip is to an MVP candidacy? Because
That's the big question.
All over this guy. I fucking love Lip.
I'm pretty sold between. I mean, I don't know. Hanbin also just had a crazy fucking week, but I don't think that's 1 week. And like, I'm pretty sold. I'm pretty sold on MVP candidates for the top two still being like Lip or Fearless currently. I'm pretty sold for that still.
Yeah, to me, it's a draw between the two of those. But Lip has like risen in the conversation. It's out of the two, and I think based on Summer Showdown and Countdown Cup, that's going to be the determinator. But I think those two are the favorites right now.
Yeah, I would agree. It's kind of hard not to agree.
Or if Atlanta pops the fuck off some more, like, I mean, there's literally no argument to be made that, like, in my opinion, that Pelican is not the most valuable player on that team. So, but I think that requires like a ridiculous amount of Atlanta, like, donks to continue to rise. I mean,
although, like, if a team like Atlanta or Houston, finished like second overall in NA, and like you have some of those players who have like huge impacts, like, is that as crazy to say? Like, I think
feel like they'd have to win a stage, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're talking about specifically MVP, and like, if you're talking about removing a player, like, imagine if Atlanta didn't have Pelican. Like, is this like, where's that team at, right? Like, imagine if Shanghai doesn't have Lip. Imagine if Fuel don't have Fearless. You know, there's like so many things that, like, that's the whole thing of the MVP. But you would give the MVP to a team that's been performing consistently amazing versus like a team that's like, yeah, Pelican's had good moments. He's had like, I mean, for the most part, I mean, I can't think of any bad moments for Pelican legitimately. So that's why I personally still have Pelican up there for my MVP.
Okay.
No joke.
Okay. Any love for the Fate Wrecking Ball as well? The narrative is very cool.
It's good.
I like the narrative.
I think it's good.
Yeah. He's also been sorely missed over on the Florida Mayhem. Clearly,
He has indeed.
That's a
Yeah,
hold that
I mean,
they've
I think
really
people didn't realize
struggled
how
to
big
fill.
of a trade that was. Like Fate was such a like. I don't think people realized. I've already talked about this narrative too, but like when they said they were going to trade Fearless for Fate, everyone's like, wow, you know, it's such a downgrade. But like Fate is just so insanely well-rounded as a player. He's just so well-rounded as a player. It's crazy.
Yeah, we talked about that
Yeah.
in our Pro Domain team preview here on the
Yeah.
Plat Chat channel. And me and Sideshow, we just like went back between the Copium and Opium or whatnot. I was like, is this the perfect team for OG? Or is missing Fate going to destroy this team? So yeah, it
Yeah.
was such an insane trade at the time.
Yeah, no, I honestly, it may not even be the trade. It may just the trade may have been fine. It's just the pickup of OG we may look at and be like, that was the issue, right? Like if they had gone for another tank at that moment, like it may not feel as bad. Like
a Muse
obviously,
or
like
something.
he has the ties to KDG, but like if they got Sato instead of OG, like would we be looking at it as like a terrible move? Like I imagine Sato would be way better on Florida than OG was.
Maybe. I
potentially.
mean, it's tough to make the call. I mean, Sato is probably more proven, but
Talking about another team, I mean, Sato's former team as well, over in the APAC region, the Philadelphia Fusion. They have just reintegrated Funny Astro into the roster, but not full-time. So my question here is, who should Philadelphia field? What should their starting roster actually look like? Because from the very beginning of the season, we said, and the coaches knew, that there would be a dip in performance as you start to reintegrate these new players. Shockwave is in Korea, hasn't been fielded. Funny Astro is playing about half the maps. Toby seems to be playing whenever they need a full-time brig. That seems to be my read on what's going on there. And as far as I know, Poco is not in Korea yet. I'm not 100% on that. I thought he was, but then I looked at his Twitter and he tweeted like 2 weeks ago a picture of his home in France. And so I think he's still in France. So if we leave that aside, they can't field Poco. Let's just assume that. You have to run Hotber and Mano. What kind of stuff do you want to see from the Philadelphia Fusion?
I think you kind of have to split time, at least for now, between these players. I don't think you can put them in a position where they move across the world in this type of environment and then they just get on the ground and play straight away. And also, I think in APAC, they have some games to work with, right? With how APAC has been, I think you can probably, like, let's say if you wanted to, you can finish out this tournament not playing them full time and then have a ton of time to practice between this and the next one with them. And really kind of play for that playoff spot at the end. I don't think it's I think if you're Philly, I wouldn't exactly look at the tournament like making it to Hawaii like finals is like do or die scenarios, right? For them getting everybody back integrated, but for playoff time would be my goal.
Okay.
Yeah,
Avast,
I mean,
Jonathan, what are you thinking?
Do we agree that Funny Astro is the better player of the two? I mean, I know that Avast is the Toby simp,
I am.
but like long term, I just want to like just bet on Funny Astro as we get closer to the playoffs.
I think that here's the thing. I want to dig into the VODs more of Funny Astro's Brig versus Toby's Brig. Because I think outside of that, to me, it's pretty clear cut that you should be running Funny Astro at all times. But the Brig, I could see the argument there. And also because Toby's been in the team and been playing Brig a lot this season so far. Maybe he's just developed on it, whereas Funny Astro hasn't. I'm not sure. But I don't really have an answer for that portion, but otherwise, on every other hero, I would prefer having Funny Astro in. It's not that Toby's bad. I just think Funny Astro's like a genuinely top 3 like main support in the league.
Their schedule gives them a decent amount of time. So they play Chengdu and New York this week. Those are 2 very winnable games. And then obviously we have like Hawaii if they were to make it. But then after that, they don't play until July 31st. Their final stretch of games is quite tough though. Shanghai, Hangzhou, New York, and then Seoul. Right, so you have Shanghai and Seoul in there, but you still feel really good about them.
That's still pretty winnable. What do you think
now?
Avast? Oh, sorry, go on.
Right now, they hold on to the 3rd seed in APAC with 7 league points. Hangzhou behind them at 6 and 4 with 6 league points. So, like, worst case scenario, if Hangzhou were to like make Hawaii and get some league points, they could get past. But they still look good to kind of make that overall playoff thing at the end.
But it's tight.
I hate splitting
Yeah.
main support time for Brigida to Lucio. I think that is super. It's like main tank. I hate splitting main tank time, and I hate splitting main support time for your roster. So personally, I'd rather they just find, even if it means benching Toby, because like it's hard to argue that Astro was not amazing. Like you can't make the argument that Astro was not amazing. And even someone that really likes Toby to me is someone that like, he's not, if your team needs an edge, he's not going to give you the edge. He's just going to make sure that your team doesn't lose is the difference. Like, and like Toby's the type of player. Toby to me is a lot like, it's like a better closer or even a Jexa sort, even though Jexa's been playing, having a great year, honestly. But like someone that's going to get the job done, is going to do it well, will make some plays, and you will be very flexible and you can put him a lot of different things, but he's not necessarily like the superstar, like 100% going to frag the fuck out type of player. So I would rather they just try to play Astro and see if they can make it work. But if they can't make the Astro Brigida work, I'd rather just play full-time Toby. No joke, unless it's like a map 100% that you will never have to swap off Lucio. Because like main support and main tanks are roles that I really hate splitting playtime for your roster. I think it just makes you, because when you're splitting playtime, that means your archetypes of like comps that you can play are so limited. It's like, oh, we have Super In, so we're not going to be playing like Winston that much, right? Oh, we have Astro In, so we're not going to be playing Brigida at all, right? Like it's a problem you have when you have players that are so integral to your comp type, having limited pools and how you split them. So they need to make a choice. I'd rather it be Astro because I think he's just he just will give that team an edge. But if they can't make it work with Astro, they should just give it to Toby since he already has the Brigida play.
All right. Well, the other portion of this question then is about their DPS line. If you look at what they were fielding here in map 1 of Rascal and EQO, that is a really unusual lineup to be fielding at the beginning, especially when you look at what, I mean, presumably EQO was the only person that felt comfortable running the Sombra in this meta or something. That's the only reason I can think of that this line was in. But that, to me, in and of itself, is a weird reasoning behind that. But EQO got fisted on this first map. I mean, he got destroyed. When he tried to play Sombra, he was getting outplayed. When he tried to play McCree at some points, his positioning was off, and Shanghai just bodied him. Every single thing that EQO was doing was getting shut down by Shanghai, and they rinsed him. They made him look very poor, which is a combination both of like, sometimes it was his mispositioning, but sometimes it was just that Shanghai seemed to have a specific game plan of shitting on him. I really, really want Shockwave to come in, because I feel like the crucial element that Shockwave adds is that it frees up people like Carpe or Rascal to be able to specialize a little more in stuff that they need to play for this team to function well.
Yeah, I mean, it seems based on the substitutions right now that EQO is just like the Sombra guy, as you said, and then he swaps over to Tracer sometimes if they can't make it work for whatever reason. And then Rascal is like the flex player who also plays like the Mei if they swap over to Reinhardt or whatever. And then Carpe comes in on some maps and plays the hit scan role. So like the McCree, the Tracer. But it seems like EQO is getting the most playtime out of any of these 3 DPS players because he's just like been relegated to Sombra duty. That's all about he does. Still, though, I feel like the Philly needs a player like him. Like, I don't see Carpe just like full-time playing Sombra. I don't see Shockwave necessarily playing full-time Sombra either, right? So I feel like EQO kind of like, this is his role now. This is what he does. And he needs to step up that game. And then, like, you could see Rascal playing Sombra maybe, but then it gets iffy on those maps where you need a Sombra and a Mei, for example. So it's tough for Philly trying to make that work in any other way, I feel like.
I'd like to see more Shockwave as well. I think he's so talented and opens up a lot of the roster where I think Rascal was almost just like a fill-in for Shockwave at the beginning, and maybe Shockwave just needs some time to get back into Overwatch League shape. But I imagine that's the change that kind of happens to this team over time as we start to see more Shockwave, and that opens up what we kind of wanted to see from Carpe, or wanted to see them do from Carpe at the beginning of the year, is allow him to specialize at the things that he's really strong at. And then maybe you kind of work EQO or Rascal into some of those other roles.
Yeah, I think this game was definitely closer than it looks, being a 3-0, and Fusion are not a bad team, but I'm kind of this entire season, I've just been waiting for them to get excellent. You know, like they were last year, where they topped the standings in North America. And maybe that's a dream that won't occur. Maybe there've been too many problems this year for them to ever get to that point. But I really, really hope that they get Poco into Korea, have their roster, and can peak for playoffs. Because it's just been a waste of a year for the entire team, which is so sad. So sad.
Yeah.
It's sad seeing, especially with how open the league is, right? Like this is the team that at full strength has the talent to kind of go the distance, especially in the way that it is this year with how open.
Yeah, must be so frustrating for 9K as well to have taken over this role as the head coach, and then you have so many problems you can't even really have a proper season or showcase what you're capable of.
Do you I still feel like this team might be more versatile than the one last year in terms of like playoffs, because we came into playoffs last year and Philly just got boomed in the playoffs because they couldn't adapt to the meta. I forget, was it Road Dogg meta?
It was Road Dogg, yeah. So they were playing the Moira Lucio Sombra Tracer like int comp all the way through the North American playoffs, and then they realized as they got to the grand finals that you had to play Hog, and so they were playing like Hog Sigma and stuff.
Yeah, I like the versatility this team has though. Like I feel like if they step up, not necessarily step up, but if they figure out some of the things you mentioned, like the extra 5 or 10%, getting Funny Aster into the mix, getting Poco back, Shockwave, etc. I like what this team can achieve in the long term though, come season playoffs, because you have Rascal, Arpe, Shockwave. Like this is what we sort of were waiting for, and that you're still very much waiting for. I like the upper limits of this team. Like I definitely think they could potentially go deeper if they figure things out. They could go deeper this year in the season playoffs than they did last year.
For sure.
Really? I mean, yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Well, I guess they made top 4 last year.
They made top 4. That's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, they made top 4. But, I still think the upper limits of this team is the likes that could, beat the Houston Outlaws, the LA Gladiators, if they figure things out.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the meta a little bit. This is our final topic before we get into the matches of the week. But there is a very different meta between the two regions right now. A lot of like Ball, Tracer, Sombra being played over in APAC, especially from the Shanghai Dragons, obviously. Even the Rush teams of like your Seoul Dynasties, they aren't playing the Symmetra as much as we're seeing over in NA. And also NA itself is a little split, at least, between the teams who are picking up the Sim Rush and the teams that are trying to play a lot of double shield, like the Houston Outlaws are trying. Who's got the better read on the meta here? Is North America... I feel like it's... Up until now, it's always been NA. The NA teams are the ones that have been defining the metagame, especially the Dallas Fuel. Is this going to happen again?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, none of the other APAC teams are good enough to play the style that Shanghai does, right? So, like, you are either forced to mirror or you lose unless you're maybe Shanghai. Like, that's it. Like, I just don't see, because, like, the sim comp is literally just better. It's just because you can just do everything you can with a rush, with a dive, but you can brawl and rush. Like, so to me, and I just don't think I just don't have enough faith currently in Dynasty or Fusion to compete in the mirror versus any of the NA teams.
All right, but what about Shanghai's comp? Like, could you see the Ball, Tracer, Sombra? You said earlier that if they play that perfectly,
I could see it work. Yeah, I could see it working, but I don't think this is like a better read on the meta. I think there's just one of the few times where you could like play something else and it work, right? Like a better read on the meta to me implies like, this is the meta, this is what you should play. If you are playing something else, you are like, it's just literally not as good.
Right.
While there are clear things you can do to stop the sim comp, right? Notably, stop the TP, right? Like there was like a very clear linchpin for that entire composition. And if you are able to, and since they're also playing comps that are really, really bad at like being able to poke out Sombra and Tracer, because you're playing like Sim and May and things like that, like it's really hard to like stop the value if you're getting constant hacks and like pulse bomb kills. So I do, and also mines will still be really good against like stopping that, like how they were with Shanghai and the Lat and June Joust, right? Where you have the ball to stop the rush, you slam them and you drop mines, and so there are some comps. There's definitely Shanghai's comp is good, but I feel like this is now the comp that could actually mitigate a lot of the value of the ball if they misread it, because you can just TP around him, right? You can get around the other side of the ball where he's not going to be able to slam you. But if you're TPing and they're slamming you with the ball, there's like a real counterplay, right? Like, to me, I feel like it's just two opposing styles, and it's not a clear-cut meta differential there, as opposed as it was previously when we saw APAC playing like double bubble and getting run the fuck over by Doomfist Moira shit.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I definitely do think that there are options there if you run Shanghai's comp. Like you said, if you can slam onto the teleport as they're coming through it, if you can find a hack on somebody while they're going through the teleporter and they're not protected by shields and that kind of stuff. If you can, I mean, the mobility is kind of countered by the fact that you're running Ball and Tracer Sombra. They're always going to be able to they have the mobility to be able to keep pace with you even though you're running Sim. What's your thought on this, Matt, Jonathan?
Yeah, I think APAC's probably behind overall, and I think like NA's compositions are probably stronger. But we thought that in the last tournament, right, in Shanghai, was able to pull something out that really worked. Now I think you kind of look at that and say, what are the chances of that happening again? I would say that's a little bit lower. Like, I think the ball definitely, like, once we saw them kind of get on a roll and a rhythm with it, like, it was clear that was really disrupting what Dallas was trying to do. I can't see it happening again. I think that, like, they'd have to play that composition like perfectly to make it work against like sim-based stuff.
I still think there's a lot of surprise factor there. I think the most underrated aspect in all of this is like, well, you mentioned it already, but like, how is your practice? What are you practicing against?
Right.
And how much smarter or like educated are you about playing as that composition? So like what Avast brought up as well, like no one can play this Wrecking Ball composition the way Shanghai Dragons can. So if you're going to play the Shanghai Dragons and they're going to play Lip on Sombra and they're going to play Fate Wrecking Ball, you can't practice against that. And so the first match in the knockouts will be like, or not knockouts, the playoffs will be like your first test. It's like, hey, Shanghai Dragons, they're just going to roll over you because they're that good playing that composition. And then the question becomes, how can this team adapt to playing against the Shanghai Dragons level of that? Like, what do they do differently on the Wrecking Ball comps that the teams in NA can't? And how can you change accordingly to what they play? So for Shanghai Dragons, I have full belief that this team is going to go to like the finals again because they've shown it repeatedly now. I think you know the Wrecking Ball. I think they'll be able to make it work. I think the NA teams will struggle against Wrecking Ball because, like what I've said, they can't just fight against that. I don't have enough faith in the Reinhardt and the Orisa comps to just completely competitive what Shanghai Dragons are playing right now. So it's going to come down to like, hey, are Houston Outlaws damage and tank players going to have like standout individual performances? I think it's going to come down to that kind of stuff, like the individual performances and unlocking the best in your players to be able to turn those matches around, rather than as much as it comes down to like compositions and stuff like that. So at least for the initial matches, and then as you get to like the lower bracket final or the final of the stage itself, that's where you can see the teams usually realizing what is the best composition and what is going to win us the stage. But I think in the initial matches in the stage playoffs, I think it's all up for grabs, honestly. I don't really know how it's going to turn out, but I could see double shield teams winning. I could see Reinhardt's in comps winning because they all have their own separate advantage, and then it all becomes like, how do we counter their playstyle? How are we prepared to play against their playstyle? So I think it's all up for grabs, really.
It's setting itself up for some sick games, though. I'm always interested whenever there's like different styles that teams have. That was one of the biggest reasons I loved the main melee as well. So I'm hyped. This week of Overwatch was not that great, in all honesty, but it's setting itself up to be excellent once we actually get to the knockout.
What do you mean it wasn't that great? The Vancouver Titans almost got breadsticks.
The
Vancouver Titans had 3 different win conditions to get breadsticks.
And they
I'm so tired of that fucking storyline. It's like, it just comes down to the difficulty of the card. It's like, okay.
That's the fun.
But it's not just the difficulty of the card. It's that they could easily complete it if they were playing for it. You know what I mean? Like, if they just wanted to play Sombra and get a quad EMP, they could.
I don't think so.
fucking
No,
stop
you want to
us
think about
getting
something
breadsticks
crazy?
at
All they
times.
needed was 10 ult kills on Hanamura. They needed 10 total ult limbs, and in a whole map, trying their best, they got 7. 7 ult kills, man. I was like, holy goddamn! Like, actually, I think I might have got a little less. I got like 6 or something, but like, it's
I
actually
got 7. I was
Yeah.
counting.
It was
Oh, God.
wild, and they had 3 different chances to get breadsticks.
Have you,
And it's
have you
just
seen this one? The fan-made one. They
have
posted
not
this and
seen
they were
this one.
like, "This is what it's eventually gonna become."
3 maps
Yeah.
played.
They only have
It's
4
just-
more matches. At some
I-
point, they
Use
have to-
the melee.
I mean, it's gonna be the bread bowl, man. The grand finals of the toilet bowl. It's gonna be London Spitfire versus Vancouver Titans. There's the final
God,
chance.
I love that. I
The
love that.
final,
Also-
now, unless Spitfire continues to be like decent, potentially moving forward.
I would be so much more interested in following the breadstick storyline if they didn't like make the card some vague bullshit. It's like 10 ultimate kills. Like, I don't want to sit there and like, hey, does this Earth Shatter kill count as an actual kill
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
ultimate thing?
yeah.
Or like the blizzard damage? Like, make it more straightforward. The best square on that entire card is double pulse bomb because it's doable. And it's exciting to follow, and it's an immediate reaction if it happens. It's like, holy shit, Dalton
I
just hit the double
disagree.
pulse bomb.
I
Close it
like
off.
the unknown factor to it. Like, does that count or does it not count?
Why do you
like
like
I
that?
kind
It's
of
like some
like
bullshit. Like,
the
hey,
randomness to it. You know?
can Tiru teleport 15 players of the Vancouver Titans in a map? It's like, I don't know. I'm not following that stat. Like,
That would be an amazing stat. Well, what I've been doing is I've been keeping track of it live on stream. I mean, to me, it sounds like you're complaining because the rules aren't clear cut, and the players didn't agree to them. So the DOJ is going to have to investigate the Pizza Hut for anti-competitive practices. I think
Yes.
for a soft breadstick salary cap.
Yes.
Vancouver Titans.
Yeah,
We
I
need to
think,
have DOJ
I
step
think
in.
that's the best part is that like they don't really even know what's happening with it. Like I don't think anybody knows. Like I was counting them, and then like halfway through the series, they were like, "Oh, we got to note that it's just like you have to complete all of the like the entire square within one map." I was like, "It doesn't say that anywhere." I was like, "How is that?"
It did say it. It did say it on their bingo card.
It was in
on
tiny
Bingo Card.
little fucking breadstick lawyer
The Pizza Hut
writing.
lawyers put
Pizza
that
lawyer
right
writing.
down there.
Here's
You
one of
couldn't
the
see it.
funniest parts is that so I was keeping track. I had a notepad up and I was actually writing down how many they had in each thing during the series.
that's the first time that's written like the past
It
5
is.
years.
I mean, look, there's
First time
nothing
he's
else.
taken
There's
notes.
nothing else going on with the series outside of that. I mean, I'll tell you that. But like, they actually didn't complete 10 ultimate kills for the entire
Nope.
series. Like,
No,
they
they
would have
didn't.
failed
They
on
got
that.
close on Gibraltar.
They got
Oh
to
my
7
God.
total.
Yeah.
That is horrific. Also,
Yeah.
how do you not get a team? They do occasionally win team fights.
It's because it takes them so long to finish.
Yeah,
up
there
that
was
they
never
never
the
get team
gong.
win.
Yeah, you
you
never got the
gong.
gong.
yeah, I mean, unlucky. All right. The toilet bowl, whenever it does. Sorry, not the toilet bowl. Let's the bread bowl. The finals of
Or
the
the
bread
grand
bowl.
finals of the toilet bowl. It could be the
Okay.
grand
London
finals.
needs to find a sponsor that will give bread to their fans between here and now. And it has to become just one fucking match decided on bread.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Okay, but as soon as that comes up, as soon as we get to the final week, it will be in our Plat Chat Pick'ems. But for this week, our Plat Chat Pick'ems, the top 5 games of the week, we're going to begin with a bit of a dodgy one, honestly, which should... the reason that we think this could be an interesting match is an indictment of the Washington Justice. The Washington Justice are playing against the London Spitfire.
Oh, nobody took London in this shit.
Okay,
Well, first
this
of
is
all,
the...
this is Rain
Hey!
Uprising.
Well, this is the
Atlanta
last raid of the Boston Uprising. I got the wrong one.
Yeah, I mean-
Oh, yep, that's just me reading it incorrectly because I'm an
Kurt
idiot.
is so much. Kurt is so much more prepared than you, and
I
he's
know.
not like even hosting the show. We should have Kurt host an episode.
Oh, yeah, no, it does say Atlanta versus Boston. I'm just blind. No, I'm just blind. All right, so the reason that I picked this one, and everyone has gone here with Atlanta, is because Boston are also 2-0. Boston do actually have a chance of being able to make it into like the knockouts and being potentially a top team. It's just they're running into Atlanta and Houston this week. So are we thinking Boston just end up going 2-2? Atlanta easily win this game?
I mean, Boston played arguably 2 of the worst teams so far for the record, and they dropped them at the Titans, right? So, like, at the end of the day, because they beat Mayhem and Titans as their 2-0 record, right? So it's tough to really extrapolate where they're at currently, because before the Mayhem match would have mattered, we'd be like, oh, wow, that's pretty good, actually. And now, the more I've seen of Mayhem, the more I'm like, never mind. This doesn't matter as much. So I don't think you can currently look at the Atlanta Reign and somehow argue that Boston should, in any reason, win that match.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's not a ton of great matches this upcoming weekend. Actually, there's a few, and
There's
we'll
a
get
few.
to them.
There's a few
But,
fucking
you
bangers.
know, on the lower end, you know, your sixth, fifth match, you know, it comes out down to matches like this. But at least this match, that will probably be the game. Where it's like, hey, Boston, if they win, they'll make it to the knockouts. Atlanta Reign will probably already be in, unless my brain fails me, because they beat on a Spitfire. Yeah, so like there'll be stuff on the line here. And Boston, if anything, they have at least played Reinhardt in their prior 2 matches. So maybe they can make it a good game.
Okay. Well, moving on. It is that match that I previously set up incorrectly before. The Washington Justice against the London Spitfire. Can London get their first win of the season? Our survey says, I think that might be a shot, though. I think there might be a shot here.
If there was a team that would overlook London and just kind of fumble around through it and not figure it out, it could be Washington. I still don't think it'll happen, though. I don't.
It just seems hard to pred. It just feels impossible to pred because, like, granted, they went to map 5 versus Shock, but I feel like Shock was like one of the worst. It's definitely some of the worst Shock has looked. They've been looking pretty bad, like, for the majority of the stage. But, like, I don't know. It's just you can't make this call yet on a team that has yet to win a series of Overwatch.
Yeah,
you know, you literally cannot spread.
I will say, at least for London's sake, they've looked competitive in matches. Like
they have the last couple of ones. Yeah,
they're not winning them, but at least they've looked competitive.
Are London the best of the bottom?
I mean, they're just.
Are London the best of the winless teams?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh
yeah. I mean, I would say if they play roughly around the same level as they play in that Shock match the rest of the season, they are definitely the best of the winless teams.
Hey,
and if they continue to play that level, they could win this match. Honestly,
here's my hot take. I could even predict the London Spitfire against like Guangzhou Charge or maybe even New York Excelsior.
Oh, sure.
That's my hot take.
Okay. I mean, if they play as well as they did versus Shock, yeah, I think that's fair.
Guangzhou have actually looked a little better recently. Like, Guangzhou have actually stepped up this week. It was interesting to watch. They feel like they're figuring some stuff out compared to last week where they were trash. Anyway, the next match is not involving them. The next match is easily the best of the week. It's a banger on a seasonal level. It is the battle for Texas, the Dallas Fuel against the Houston Outlaws. Oh my word! I desperately wanted to pick Houston in this game, but I didn't. I didn't have the balls. It's only Matt Morello that's gone for the Houston Outlaws.
Outlaws fucking time. If they can't do it now, they're never gonna do it. They look great with what they've been playing. Piggy's been popping off. I feel like they get a win here, and they know how important it is to like put themselves up in terms of knockouts. Put themselves towards the top of the standings and potentially avoid Dallas later in the weekend. I want to see Houston win this. I think they have a good shot at it as well.
I really wanted to predict them because I think like I said earlier, I have the sneaky suspicion that running the Orisa comps is going to put is going to put Dallas in an uncomfortable position where they have to make these predictable
Dallas
teleporters.
struggled against the Checkmate Orisa.
Yeah, that is what concerns me, honestly, is that Houston might just have the answer for these Symmetra teleport shenanigans that are going on. But like we discussed earlier on, I think a lot of it is about varying that up and becoming unpredictable with your teleporter pathing. And I think this is either teams to take, but to me, it rests in the Dallas Fuel's hands. It's like Houston are going to try and counter Dallas, so it's whether Dallas can work around that.
This should be an exciting battle of Texas, though. This should be like the best battle of Texas ever.
Yeah,
honestly,
definitely, right?
Yeah.
Like they haven't played each other this season yet, have they?
No, didn't they? I thought they did play. They definitely did. Yeah, they did.
They even played in the last knockouts.
Yeah.
I do wonder how
in the knockouts. Yeah, I meant regular season. Right.
How Dallas, I believe this is the match where they play in front of the crowd, right? I do wonder
Saturday.
how that.
Right?
Is that true?
Ooh.
If I'm correct,
I think it is because that's what they scheduled for.
How taken out of their environment that they've played all year for a big match like this affects them, whether it's a positive or a negative.
God, I mean, that is awesome that you're getting the battle for Texas while both teams are at an incredibly high level. Either team could win, and you've got it in front of a live crowd. That is fucking bonkers. Good time
That's
to be a
gonna be good.
Texan fan. It is the only good time in the history of the league that it would be good to be a Texan
Before
fan.
the league's launch, it was pretty good, but then as soon as we started playing, that's when it fell apart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will say I think my biggest cardinal sin this season in terms of predicting and doing pick'ems is that I keep predicting these like A tier teams to beat the S tier teams because I'm outsmarting myself with like compositional things like, oh yeah, their
yeah.
compositions, you know, they're going to counter this fantastic team. I did it with Seoul earlier, like last week. I've done it before, like trying to predict what a team is going to play. But the fact remains, like Dallas Fuel, they're the top 2 team in the league. They play at a ridiculous pace. They're going to figure some shit out. Yes, Houston Outlaws, you're on the up and coming. You know, you play the right compositions. I believe in your players. But until you actually beat a team like the Dallas Fuel, I can't do it because it's just such a gigantic step up to beat some of these teams like the Shanghai Dragons and the Dallas Fuel. Dallas Fuel is a better team until they've actually lost and they're beaten. And I'm not going to try to predict the upset in that way anymore
Yeah.
anyway.
That's how I felt. That's why I ended up going with Dallas, because I am a coward who is judging this off historical value rather than predicting with my gut.
I'm not a fucking
My gut says
coward.
Houston, my brain says shut the fuck up.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I'm not a coward because if I'm wrong, I'll just never talk about it again. But if I'm right, I'll just keep constantly bringing it up. So it never negatively impacts me.
Okay, next game is actually low-key a good one. It is the Washington Justice against the Los Angeles Gladiators.
That's high-key a good one. Come on.
Okay,
Is
all
Is
right.
this high key a good one?
Well,
Is
I
this?
think it could be competitive.
everybody's gone for the Gladiators, but I want to know how competitive you think this game is. For me, I mean, the Gladiators got reverse swept by Paris. They were also playing shit that has not become meta in any stretch of the imagination. They played right at the beginning of the stage, so there's no way of knowing really how good they're going to.
No, I
to
think
be.
I think Paris are like a
I think
legitimately
this is
pretty
a-
decent team, and Gladiators lost to Paris, sure, but they pulled out some wacky shit. The shoulder went into fucking overdrive and put out some crazy stuff. I don't think how you can look at Justice's team and ever think at any point they're like currently going to be good right now, right? Like they beat Florida, and I'm like they're playing Checkmate Main Tank, you know? Like I mean, just I just
The Washington Justice's last 2 wins have been from Florida.
yes.
They literally just farmed
They
Florida
just
when they
don't
became
know
back.
how to play the meta. Like at least Gladiator. Like if this is close, it's because Gladiators are playing some crazy shit that you're just like, why the fuck are they on this? Like, but I think Gladiators are 100% favored here still. So
Okay, all right. Why do
Yeah,
you say
I actually
high-key
think-
good game, Jonathan? What's
I
happening
actually
in
think
your
that the
brain?
Washington Justice, it's one of those things that happened in the June Joust as well, where like they came in on the wrong foot in the initial matches. And I think we saw some good signs of improvement, like immediate signs of improvement against the Florida Mayhem. Yes, it was the Mayhem, but in terms of just like the compositions and the fact they were playing more freestyle and putting decay on assassin on the right heroes. I think if they trend in that direction, practice in that direction this week, I think they could at least come out on the double shield composition and play a decently good game. Like Fury on the off tank, he showed like what we know him for. We know that he's a great off tank and he can be a difference maker in some of these matches. While the Gladiators, they pretty much only relied on the Winston, Genji, Sombra so far. They played a little bit of Ryan at times, but like it's not a composition we generally know them well for. Like they want to play the Winston, they want to play Space on that Diva. Sometimes the Sigma, I suppose. I think this could genuinely be a case of Washington Justice know what composition they have to play and how to unlock their players. While the LA Gladiators, I have no idea what they're going to play. I don't know what LA Gladiators are going to bring to this match. Are they going to keep playing like some Sombra composition with dive? Are they going to play double shield? Ryan? I don't know. I don't know what their read on the meta is behind the scenes in scrims. Well, I feel like the Washington Justice, they're making some improvements already, and they showed it against Florida.
Okay.
I ain't buying that again. Nah.
I mean, I predicted the Gladiators, because they're the better team. I'm just saying, I think Washington Justice, they could be scary if they continue in the right direction.
Okay. They're still doing all right in terms of their match record as well.
Yeah.
Our final game of the week, our top 5 match, delves into the APAC region. It's Chengdu against Philadelphia Fusion. And we've all gone for the Philadelphia Fusion. Is there any debate here? Were any of you panda loving? Is this even a good game? What's the feel? What's the read?
No.
I've predicted the Hunters before. I thought eventually they would, not be the Hunters, but it just seems like they just can't, get away from themselves and just doing weird shit. And I also think Philly's one of the stronger teams in the region. Although they lose to Shanghai, they did put up a pretty good fight. So I don't particularly think this is going to be a tough one for Philly. I think Philly knows that they also need to kind of create some distance between them and Chengdu for that third spot. So I think Philly takes this one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm done with the Hunters. I'm done with them. I'm done with the Hunters. I'm done with the Spark. Those are two teams I'm done with.
Yeah.
I'm done with them. I can't see them ever. Like, now that Fusion's assembling their roster as it was meant to be, and Seoul is looking like pretty decent. I'm just done with those teams. I just don't think they have what it takes to figure. Hunters and Spark are just two teams where they just shouldn't be this weird, and they just are. They just are, and I just don't know what they're doing.
Hunters and Spark are also the only teams. I mean, I guess the Valiant also falls into this, but I just have ignored them the entire season long whenever I think about anything because they're not a real team. The Hunters and the Spark are the only teams that have tried to pick up Chinese talent and have gone for like blending rosters together. Do you think that's part of the issue? Because to me, being able to like hit the floor running.
Well, isn't the Hunters a full Chinese team though? They haven't really blended talent, right?
The Hunters? No, the Hunters have.
Who did they pick? Have they picked up a Korean player? I thought they were still full Chinese.
No,
Am I crazy?
full Chinese, right?
No,
Yeah.
sorry.
I was about to say Hunters. I mean, Hunters make sense because Chinese Overwatch has always been wacky as shit, and then like Spark. I mean, I get it's just tough to make the roster work with what they have been going. They just haven't found the right iteration, or like they've gone through coaches and stuff. So like, it's just tough. But their talent level is still crazy, and it doesn't make sense that they're having so much trouble. I mean, the same goes to Hunters. Like to me, I didn't never think Hunters was going to be like a championship level team, but I thought Hunters were going to be like legitimately really good this year.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to be legitimately really good. I thought they picked up all the shit that they picked up all the roles that they lacked before. Like they got a better flex support, got a better main tank that can actually play main tank. They had kept like their pretty decent like off tank line, and like they still had a cracked as fuck DPS line. It's just they're wacky as shit. Spark can't figure it out. I'm never going to vote for those teams ever again. I'm never going to pick for them. I just can't do it. I can't do it. I've been burned too much. I'm done with them.
Am I also losing my mind here, or did Chengdu make a change as well that we didn't go over in the show for some?
I mean, technically, Elsa retired,
yeah,
and now Late Young is now their full off tank.
Did you also see the?
There are lots of rumors, yeah.
Yeah. Did you also see the like ton of rumors and also Halo going back and forth with people on Twitter?
Oh yeah, about like it being internal issues.
Yeah, some internal issues within the Chengdu camp, etc.
Potentially Jinmu, and I think you mentioned like Eamon considering retirement as well.
Yeah.
We obviously have no clue.
Yeah,
no
but,
idea.
I mean, that also would make sense to me. I mean, Eamon hasn't really been getting that much playtime. Jinmu's just been coming in every now and then, but it's not like
you have such sick Chinese talent to just spread over the league. Like, I would love to see some of these players on just one squad, like a leave shy DPS line or something like that. Like, we haven't seen Liga hasn't come back for Hangzhou, right? He took a break in the beginning.
But Liga also said that was due to his own mental
his own issues that he was having. Yeah. So
like if you had him and like Gushui, right, with like a lined up with like Leave, and then we've seen loads of supports, right? Even Molly on the bench of Shanghai.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not saying that Chinese talent is bad in any way. I just feel like I don't know. They've not succeeded, which I feel like there has got to be some level of correlation or some
could be coaching.
Yeah, some like
I mean it's
something around.
It's been Roy for like forever now. Like he was in the team, then he left the team, right, and then he came back.
Ray, yeah. I think he left the team. They got a new coach. They're like, what the fuck? They brought him back. They were like, everyone's like, oh shit, this is the reunion tour. Like Backstreet Boys are back together. And then it did not work. It hasn't panned out this year either. So, I mean, the talent is there. It's just, if anyone has ever followed Chinese Overwatch for a long time and seen it, like back in the day, Chinese Overwatch was playing like 3 Lucios, 3 Roadhogs and like fucking doing like crazy, like dumb shit. Like the region has always had like an extremely weird esoteric read on how Overwatch is meant to be played. And so that's, I think, is the issue. It's never been a talent level for them. It's just they've always been in a very weird spot with their understanding of the metas. And I think that definitely carries over to their coaching, because if the same coaches that have existed throughout their history for the most part were the same ones to play in the Roadhog for all of the goddamn time, like, of course, like, they're going to have problems figuring out, because Roadhog fucking sucks except for like a couple times. So like, there's just no way that they're ever going to really, I don't think they're in a position to succeed currently.
You just may not have a huge pool of coaches like out of the Chinese pool.
Yeah.
Community where you could put all those super talented players together, but you're not going to go hire a Korean coach, right? Who can't communicate with the team or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that might end up.
Oh, I mean, you did that for Spark.
Yeah.
They had Pajon, so.
Yeah.
Also, like, it doesn't take much for a team to fall apart. Like, it can be true. Both things can be true, that Chengdu Hunters was really talented and were supposed to be really good this year, and also like their season went to shit because
I mean, Tikulu Mayhem.
Yeah, exactly. And that was exactly this comparison I was going to bring up, actually. So, like, you're right, Avast, like, yes, one player just like for unknown reasons still is benched, and it so happens it's the main tank player, so it's not as comparable to Chengdu Hunters. But like, it can just be some internal shit, went wrong. Like, I was about to say something really bad, but yeah, something goes wrong. We don't know about it, some internal stuff. And then just, like, the team breaks down, and then 3 player wants to leave or like whatever. And that's it. And that's a wrap. It's a wrap. So,
okay.
It doesn't take much for a really talented team to just like go down like this, especially when you haven't had success. Like a team like San Francisco Shock, they could undergo like a difficult phase of, but still figure it out because they know they've been at the top. They know they're capable of fulfilling their potential and get back to that level. Whereas the Chengdu Hunters, like, we were just like, yeah, this team is going to be great, and they don't have any historic achievements to look back on. Where like they were really successful. So I think it's harder if you get into a bad group to snap out of that, because you're like questioning your belief in the process of this team. So yeah, I mean, they were supposed to be super talented. They were supposed to be a really good team, and for unbeknownst reasons, players want to retire now and they want to get out.
Yeah.
It sucks, but it happens.
Yep. Moving on to our most important segment of the week. It's Bren's What did you just say?
Yes, sir.
I thought something went wrong over there. I thought Matt was calling for help.
What? I malfunctioned? Oh, my bad.
It's Bren's
I was just excited for this segment.
It's Bren's Player of the Week presented by T-Mobile.
I don't know up for it.
I don't know what to say, man. You're like, have you ever seen the scene from Madagascar where the giraffe has just buried itself up to its head, and it's just a tiny little head peeking out above the floor? That's what you look like, and you're just screaming, "Yes, sir!"
Yeah,
ridiculous. Honestly, ridiculous. Okay, Bren's Player of the Week presented by T-Mobile this week is
who is it?
Who is it? It's Gator. For me, it's Gator, because even though his team didn't come out and, smash everybody, they had an insane game against the Dallas Fuel. And I've been waiting since these guys came out of contenders for Gator and Hawk to step up to the big time. And Hawk already had it. He's already looked good throughout the whole of the June joust. Gator was right on the precipice. He was still having good, very solid performances on the Rhine, on the Orisa. But I felt like this week, he fucking busted onto Fearless. And it wasn't...
Sorry.
Come on, bro.
Come on. You had so many other ways to say that.
Yeah, I did.
So many ways.
What I was going to say is... I don't know what I was going to say. My brain works slower than my mouth does. So he was nuts. He was absolutely nuts. And now, I'm not saying that he completely MTD'd Fearless, because he absolutely got given it as well a lot of times. But if we see more performances like this from Gator, and also if we see him being good when he goes over to the Winston as well, which is always something to be more aware of with that player. But if we can see more of these like elite level performances from the tank line, the Atlanta Reign is good. They are good to go.
Has to be said.
Like Avast mentioned, though, like I do believe if you get Gator and Hawk to play like we have seen, and you have a player like Pelican, I also think Iris has kind of gone under the radar a little bit this season. I thought he's been quite good in the flex support role.
Yeah.
But they have a team that can really make noise at the end of the season and some of these tournaments if this tank line continues to play well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the NA region is in an incredibly competitive state right now. I don't feel that confident about Dallas making it to the finals. I do feel very confident that Shanghai is going to make it there. But Dallas, I feel like it could definitely get upset by an Atlanta Reign or get upset by a Houston Outlaws or something like that on their path through. There's 3 very good teams up at the top right now. And we still haven't seen the Gladiators and what they're capable of. So I'm hyped. I think this week, next week, and the week afterwards, actually, as we head into the tournament itself, is going to be fucking great. I think it's going to be electric.
Going to be lit.
Lit.
That's right.
Yes.
It's going to be lit. That's
Yes,
the exact
sir.
word. No. Let's not do that yowl. Yeah, see, that's okay. That one's fine. But the yes, sir sounded like you were like, it sounds like you were like mewling like a cat or something. So it was kind of scary.
Sir. Johnny's got it down.
The final thing to do is welcome people to member. Like we said last time, the Q&A segment, we're going to move into its own separate video. So don't worry, we haven't left you barren and dry. We're just going to do a proper episode maybe once a month where we tackle it all. As for the welcome to member stuff, though, Curtis, who have we got?
Oh, we got a bunch, so get your reading glasses ready.
Reading glasses. Here we go. Technopat 3, welcome to member. Andrew Curry, Alex W, and Nick Hook, welcome to member.
Welcome to member.
Welcome to member. Davey. Carrie Gooseby, Keith, and Jesse Avabook, welcome to member.
Welcome to member.
Eat My Shorts 69. Welcome to member, I suppose.
Welcome to member. Eat My Shorts 69.
Sav, Ali Khalaf, Ahmed El Baba, Chris Uzi, welcome to member.
To member.
The Cat's Meow, who I swear we read out recently. Was that
Didn't
for
we
the
see
Valorant
the Cat's
channel?
Meow? Yeah.
Or was that for this?
really?
I think it might have been for Valorant, maybe. There might
But
be
I don't
members on
remember
both
Cheese
channels.
Fake VG, so...
Exactly, yeah. The Cat's Meow, welcome to member, and Cheese Fake VG. What is the VG standing for there, do you?
Video game.
Video game, that makes. And Dylan.
It also could stand for Vegeta Goku. Maybe he's a Dragon Ball Z fan. I don't know.
Oh, there's more.
Woo!
Uncle Goose, welcome to
Uncle
Large
Goose.
Member.
Large member.
Tear shoot out of his mind.
Welcome to member.
Matthew de Noronha. I'm going to get that one.
Welcome to
probably.
member. Yep.
Matthew
welcome to member.
de Noronha. Norona? There's got to be a better way of saying
Norona.
that I'm just too...
Norona. Matthew de Noronha.
Okay, excellent. Welcome to member. Trix Bunny, David Joslin as well. Welcome to member. And Paul Dodd with the large
Welcome to
member.
large member.
Welcome to member.
Forte, Tim Tyler, Nick Ule, Matthew Coe. Welcome to member. And
Wait,
then
I've seen these.
And then it's the guy
That's
with
a
the
Swedish.
incredible
I think
Swedish
we've gone
name.
past this. Yeah, I think that's the end of it.
Matthew
new
Coe.
one.
Welcome to member.
Welcome to member again.
Appreciate it.
member.
Like we said, we're gonna have like a monthly Q&A extra video, I think, because otherwise these episodes end up being 3-4 hours long, and we're just gonna go until the end of time itself. And we've
Indeed.
also got some other stuff planned. I'm not gonna exactly say what it is because I don't want to promise stuff and then maybe the episode falls through. But we've got some fucking juicy shit coming up on the channel, like genuine juice boxes. I don't think Avast even knows what they are because we've been discussing them in secret closets behind the scenes.
No fucking clue.
But I'll tell you afterwards. We've got some. Let's put it like this: we've got some big guests lined up. All right, that does it for episode 94. What time are we looking at here? I mean, my
It's a
phone ran out of
decent
battery.
2-hour
but-
episode.
I
Yeah,
think we
okay.
kept it moving versus
Okay.
going too far on tangent.
Yeah.
We kept it moving. That's important. If you continue to do your job as a host, we can produce not like ridiculously long episodes.
Okay, I
Good
just
job,
have to do
mister.
my job. All right, well, I'll try and do my job even better next time. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll catch you for episode 95.
Wait,
Goodbye.
what do they have?
Wait.
What do they have to comment?
Oh,
comment.
bollocks. What do you have to comment? Comment. Okay, I've got a genuine thing that you should comment here. Elsa retiring and Avast highly rating Elsa. I want you to say from 1 to 20 where you would put Elsa this year in terms of starting off tanks.
Ah, shit.
When?
Where-
Oh,
Where was Elsa when he left the scene? What kind? Because it was Elsa's best year he'd ever had. Where did he finish? What was his peak in the Overwatch League? I'm not going to influence it. I just want to know your thoughts. Where would you rank him?
You influence it by
9.
your face. Just fucking that fucking stupid grin you have all the time.
Well, that's just me. I'm
That's just
a
his
happy
face.
fellow. I'm a fucking
it's
happy fellow, Matt.
It's just terrible.
He's
Just 'cause-
jovial. He's not a bottom right buster like
Just because
yourself.
you're a bottom right buster, a floating head of misery.
What? That's not very nice. You're
No,
supposed
well,
to be nice. You just said you're jolly. You smiled. I think you said such mean things to me.
I'll tickle your beard. I'll tickle your beard a little bit.
Don't
you know.
touch me now. Get away from me.
All right, we'll see
Put
you
me
in
on the
episode
other side,
95.
Kurt. Put me where Johnny is. I want to be away from this guy.